purchase of 810 Enfield Street. Roll call, Sheila.
Deputy Mayor Sakala.
Here.
Mayor Crisati.
Here.
Councilor Despard.
Here.
Councilor Finger.
Here.
Councilor Hopkins.
Here.
Councilor Ludwig.
Here.
Councilor Mangini.
Here.
Councilor Nelson.
Here.
Councilor Pisner.
Here.
Councilor Santinella.
Here.
Councilor Ungary.
Here.
11 members are present, none are absent.
The following notice of public hearing was published in the Hartford Courant on Friday, May 5th, 2023. Town of Enfield legal notice. The Enfield Town Council will hold a public hearing in the Enfield Town Hall Council Chambers, 820 Enfield Street, Enfield, Connecticut, on Monday, May 15th, 2023, at 6:55 p.m. to allow interested residents an opportunity to express their opinions regarding the purchase of property known as 810 Enfield Street, dated the second day of May 2023. Sheila M. Bailey, Town Clerk. The announcing of the ground rules for the public hearing. There is no time limit, but I ask that each person not take up too much time so that everyone will have an opportunity to speak. After each person who desires had one chance to speak, I shall permit those individuals who desire a second chance. After those individuals who desire to speak a second time, I shall permit those individuals who desire a third or fourth time. Please refrain from personalities. Good evening, everyone. Is there anybody who would like to approach the council in regard to the purchase of 810 Enfield Street? Is there anybody that would like to approach the council? I see none. I declare the public hearing over. Thank you. We're going to start right into the regular meeting. Welcome, everyone, and to all your mothers out there, happy belated Mother's Day. And today is the regular meeting, Monday, May 15th, 7 p.m., the council chambers. The meeting can also be viewed on YouTube and ETV. Prayer, Councilor Despard.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. For those who don't know, today, May 15th, is Peace Officer Memorial Day. So I'd like to take this opportunity to reflect on the courage and commitment of our officers here in Enfield, as well as across the state and our entire country, who not only put themselves in harm's way each day, but who often rush towards danger to protect the community and uphold the rule of law. I invite you to join me in observing a moment of silence to celebrate their remarkable courage and to honor the fallen heroes who have made the ultimate sacrifice in the name of peace and public safety. Thank you.
United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
God bless America. God help Enfield City.
Sheila, roll call, please.
Councilor Despard.
Here.
Councilor Finger.
Here.
Councilor Hopkins.
Here.
Councilor Ludwig.
Here.
Councilor Mangini.
Here.
Councilor Nelson.
Here.
Councilor Pisner.
Here.
Councilor Santinella.
Here.
Councilor Ungary.
Here.
Deputy Mayor Sakala.
Here.
And Mayor Crisati.
Here.
11 members are present, none are absent.
Okay, next, the fire evacuation announcement. In the event of a fire, there are exits in the back of the chambers, and to my left in the audience is right. Exit through the doors and go downstairs into the parking lot. Next, minutes of preceding minutes. We have several sets of meeting minutes due to budget workshops. We'll approve all these by a voice vote and a show of hands. All right, first of all, the special meeting, May 1st, 2023. Do I have a motion?
So moved. Second.
Councilor Nelson is second by Deputy Mayor, Councilor Mangini. By show of hands, all in favor? Abstentions? All right, so it's 10 in favor, 1 abstention. Next, the regular meeting,
So
May
moved.
1st, 2023. Do I have a motion? Counselor Mangini,
Second.
and a second by Counselor Nelson. By a show of hands, all in favor? And abstentions? All right, so we have 10 in favor, 1 abstention. Next, special meeting, May 3rd, 2023. Do I have a motion to accept the minutes?
Motion.
Counselor Nelson, and a second by Counselor Mangini. By a show of hands, all in favor? And let's see, abstentions. 1. Okay. Okay, so it looks like we have 10 in favor, 1 abstention. Okay. All right, next, the special meeting, May 8th. Do I have a motion to
So
accept the
moved.
minutes? Counselor Nelson, and a second
Second.
by Deputy Mayor Sakala. By a show of hands, all in favor? Abstentions on this one? We have 10 in favor, 1 abstention. And for the special meeting on May 10th, 2023, do I have a motion to accept these minutes?
Motion to accept.
Second.
Counselor Mangini, and a second by Counselor Nelson. By raise of hands, all in favor? And abstentions? We have 1 abstention and 10 in favor. Thank you. Item 6, special guests. There are none tonight. Next will be public communications. We'll open up public comments, including any comments that you might have in regard to the budget, which will be on the agenda later in the evening. And before we open public communications, I just want to remind everyone that you'll have 5 minutes to address the council. Please refrain from personal attacks or personnel matters, and remember that we don't respond in regard to public comment. And as a reminder to everyone, again, this is not a forum to air grievances or discuss town employees. When you come on up, state your name and address for the record, and please be respectful. Thank you. 5 minutes.
Good evening, council members. Angela Foss, 16 Crescent Beach Drive. For those in the audience, I'd like to provide a little background of who I am. I'm a lifelong resident of Enfield, and I love this town. I attended Enfield School since kindergarten, and I am a Fermi graduate. Currently, I teach at Parkman Elementary School. So what I have to say tonight is due to the fallout from what I have been asking you for throughout the entire year. I'd like to speak as a teacher in this town first. It doesn't take a rocket scientist to know that the quality of our teachers must be a priority. We can't expect new teachers to choose Enfield as their home if their wages are about $48,000 compared to neighboring nearby towns of $52,000 plus. I believe that you all hold education at the top of your priorities. We want an excellent school system. Are you aware that the Enfield educators on the top step have received a 0% or 1% wage increase since 2014? Except in the year 2016 and 2017, when we received a 1.5% increase. The average 10-year inflation rate was over 2.28%. Neighboring towns have received double that, keeping them within the inflation rate. As you know, if wages do not follow inflation, our wages are actually going down and have been for the last 10 years. Our town budget used to be 70% for education and 30% for the rest of the town budget. This amount has changed a little each year. The town has increased in 10 years a total of 40.35%, while the school increase is an actual 16.85%. So the average yearly increase for the past 10 years on the town side was about 3.13%, while the school end, it's only been about 1.3%. Change the numbers on the budget so the education budget is greater than that of the town. Now is the time to do that. Stand up for what you know is right. have staff rework the numbers. We set the Board of Education budget to 55% of the budget or more. As an Enfield resident, you may recall that last year I spoke out against the budget, and throughout the year, many of us have spoken against tax abatements and tax freezes for big business. Your votes are for big business instead of your teachers, and now this huge tax cuts have to be covered in other ways. You've heard residents concerned with the increased vehicle taxes and farms with their new taxes. And now is when these decisions have come home to roost. As I read through the budget, I noticed the following. If these items had already been addressed, my apologies. I did my best to search for them. Is there a grant writer staff position for the town? If not, please add this position. The ARP funds will be ending this September of $4 million. So far, $4 million is needed for our budget. The correct grants expired in 2022 for $360,000. The ARP grant ends September 24th. 47, on page 47, there are grants that aren't approved and haven't been received. On page 48, the Simkovich endowment does not end, and that should be clearly stated in the budget, the $100,000. When does the Lego grant end? On page 48. We are losing about half of our grant funding for close to $5 million this year. A grant writer is essential. Page 5 for educational cost sharing should be $823,645 for 2024 and 25. Our state appropriations will remain the same with no decrease per meeting on April 20th, 2023 in the Enfield room of the town hall with Senator Kissel and Carol Hall. The numbers on the table show the amounts going down. Are there replacement for the remaining school roofs in the budget this year? Now is the time with the $4 million of ARP funds. We could put that towards that. We've heard the Republicans are working on an alternative budget. The first draft was $8 million short of a 0% tax increase. We are interested in seeing the alternative proposal tonight. Thank you for your time.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Zach Sinoni, 6 Howard Street, Enfield, Connecticut. It's amazing to see all of our teachers here tonight. I think that speaks volumes. So I want to start by echoing Angela's budget story. And what you see being passed down right now illustrates that. So when we talk about whether we've been investing in education in the town, the numbers speak for themselves and they don't fit people's narratives on if we've been funding education. And I'm not referring to school referendums because the community has funded education in this town. Whether the council has is an entirely different story. So I am, of course, here to speak tonight regarding the education budget and the proposed $1.4 million cut that the Republican caucus continues to stand behind. So I want to go into that proposal. The superintendent and the Board of Education have sent forth a proposal that is $2.9 million or 3.96%. What is in that number? 63% of it is contractual salary obligations that we agreed upon. 37% is personal benefits and services. What does this budget not do? This budget does not add one new teacher or one new program. This number is what it takes to fund everything we have in Enfield and nothing more. So touching this number is a cut to education in Enfield. There is no disputing that. That's the facts. And I find it particularly distressing that we have some counselors that say we need to tighten our belts and it's about wants versus needs when nearly no other department has any significant reductions in programs or staff in this budget. Why should our schools be anything different? In my opinion, it sends the wrong message to educators looking to come to this town. And if we're serious about economic development, I hate to break it to some of my conservative friends, but people making 6 figures, property taxes are not their number one concern. It's what are the schools looking like? And our schools need investment. In this budget, you know, I hate to break it, it doesn't even invest. It maintains. So why would we want to roll back? $1.4 million? That's a significant amount of money. And I find it incredibly concerning where that number came from, and it seems like people just wanted to make numbers work on a spreadsheet for a 0% tax increase that turned out to be $8.5 million incorrect, because no one has any context to that number. I hear $600,000 for cops. Where's the other $700,000 coming from? I hear 2% for the contingency fund. Where'd that go? The superintendent put it in his presentation. So it means you either didn't pay attention to the presentation or you think the superintendent is lying. Either of those, to me as a resident, is unacceptable. And the COVID lunch money, we hear that, or we might hear it tonight. It's federal money. We can't touch it. This is what we need as a community to keep our schools as is. And we need to either keep it as is or invest more. We do not need to go back. It sends the wrong message as a community, and it sends a wrong message to our educators. I fully support adopting the superintendent's budget as proposed. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Next, does anybody else like to approach the council?
Do we not have to give addresses when we're here? We give names and addresses as well? Perfect. Thank you. Sorry. I haven't been here before. Actually, I've never been to a town council meeting. Amanda Pickett, Guild Street. I'm here speaking as a mom, a resident, and a Board of Ed member. I'm appalled and disgusted by the lack of support for public education by the Republican caucus. For years, the Republican Party has held the majority and has underfunded our schools. Without adequate resources, our schools cannot adequately educate our kids. You came to a special meeting where you heard the conditions of our buildings, the impact on students and families and staff. You sat there and you made comments of support, yet behind closed doors proposed a $1.4 million cut. You're also making huge assumptions about the families in our community, their needs, and their life choices. Before you blame any family in town for the challenges that our schools face, I encourage you to get to know them. The issues and needs that these families face are far greater than any easy blame the parent tactic that you're using. I also don't quite understand the decision-making happening. Later tonight, you're voting on a $200,000 basketball court at Wallop School. As a District 1 resident, I can tell you my priority is my kids' education, not a $200,000 basketball court. In fact, if we have funds to repair our leisure courts, Parkman Elementary could use a ton of investment. Those tennis courts, the basketball courts there, area around the splash pad, and the playground actually needs to be paved as well. $200,000 could be used, and hundreds of kids would use that daily. For those of you who want to say that you support education because of the new buildings, supporting education doesn't mean a new high school or a new middle school. It means supporting the students, the staff, and the families. You can pat yourself on the back for that new state-of-the-art JFK in high school, but I hate to tell you that those state-of-the-art classrooms will become useless when you cut the staff and the programs that reside in there. Real investment in education is sustained funding, not the glitzy projects to pose with. I'm going to wrap up with a direct quote from a Republican town councilor at the April special meeting. If we don't put our kids first and do what's right, we're lacking in our town. A school system is a starting point for our community. It's what drives people to want to live here. So thank you to the Democrats for your continued support for high-quality education. And Enfield residents, I urge you to remember this in November. It is clear the priorities of the Republican Party, and it isn't supporting public education for all.
Is there anybody else that would like to approach the council?
Kelsey McGuire Bruce, 63 Nealons Road. Good evening. Normally when I speak here or at a Board of Education meeting, it's powered by strong emotion and strong passion to do what's right for my students, my fellow colleagues, and our town. Tonight, I wanted to be more fact-based to remind you of the numbers and what they mean. I realized when I sat down to think about how I wanted to get my points across tonight, the numbers are what drives the emotional reality that these are our kids, not just numbers and facts. I know not everyone will understand that, but it's my job to try to help you understand. I sat here as a member of the School Modernization Committee on April 5th. Said it before and I'll say it again, the energy in that room that night was different. I keep going back to how great it was and asking myself why it felt so different. Well, let me explain what is different. It feels different because on April 5th, Councilwoman Ungary said, in Enfield, we have the most amazing teachers. No one works harder than Enfield teachers. I think teachers take very little and make much with it, even to the point of bringing in their own supplies. Councilwoman Ungary, you are correct. We do bring in our own supplies, yet today I'm here because $1.4 million cut to our budget increase is much more than us bringing our own supplies. These amazing teachers you talk of won't be here if there's a $1.4 million cut to our budget. It feels different because on April 5th, Councilman Despard said, when I think about Enfield and our future is our ability to attract young families here, and I think modernizing our schools will do just that. I agree. If we continue to cut the budget the way the town has since 2011, we will certainly not see young people move here. People moving here look at the schools first. They don't care how high-end a home is, as I've heard some people sitting up here say. It feels different because on April 5th, Councilwoman Pisner said, if anyone knows me, they know that I believe education is the greatest gift we can give our kids. These kids won't get the gift of the best education if we continue to underfund our schools. If education is the greatest gift, why are we taking money from an already underfunded budget? A $1.4 million cut would mean cuts to teachers, resulting in larger class sizes, programs that foster new talents and interests in our students. Cuts to the budget means taking away course offerings to students trying to prepare themselves for career or college after high school. It feels different because on April 5th, Councilman Santinella reminded us that we are the lowest funded district in the DIRG. He said we have one of the poorest funded school districts in the state on a per student basis. We are one of the lowest funded schools in the district, and it's time to look at the budget. It's time to educate the public on why we need to start spending more. It is time to educate the public. We are the 7th worst funded district in the state of Connecticut. The average spending per child in this state is $19,031. We spend only $15,942 per student, meaning we're over $3,000 below the state average. It feels different now because some of you sitting up here tonight are letting your actions proposing these huge cuts speak much louder than your words. I quoted many of you from that meeting on April 5th, and I want to be clear that some of you that I quoted do see the need to properly fund our schools. And for those of you who understand the desperate need, thank you. Anyone else, if you think our district can afford a cut like this, you are wrong. The budget increase request of our superintendent was 3.96%. The U.S. inflation rate right now is 4.93%. The request of our superintendent was a budget that simply maintains. It is not a budget that supports new programs. It's not a budget that brings in new teachers. It's not a budget that brings in new curriculum or technology. It just maintains. If you think that a $1.4 million cut to education budget is the right path to take to not raise taxes for the community, you're wrong. I understand your role as council is to look at ways to make cuts, to not increase our taxes. I understand huge tax increases are not good for our community, especially those in fixed incomes like our seniors. $1.4 million is about 48% of the $2.9 million increase requested. Is there any other department you suggested cutting their budget request even close to 48%? From what I have heard through the budget meetings I've watched, the answer is no. There is no other department that you suggested cutting their request even close to 48%. What does this say about how you really feel about our schools and education? I've heard some of you have said that the school district must tighten up. Can you look any of us in the eyes tonight and tell us what we need to do to tighten up? Can you look at your family and friends who are educators in Enfield and explain to them why you think a $1.4 million cut to our school district is appropriate? If you truly understood what our jobs have become, you would understand that this cut is unacceptable. We cannot continue to underfund our schools and expect a better outcome for our children or our town's future. A school system that is underfunded will not benefit the future of our town. I realize that the 11 of you sitting up here tonight are not solely, or some of you even at all, responsible for the inadequate funding this district has received for the last 10 plus years. But you are responsible for it now. If you think our district can afford a cut like this, you are wrong. If you think this is the right path to take to not raise taxes for the community, you are wrong. The numbers don't lie. We are not and have not funded our schools appropriately for years. This must stop. Our schools, our children, and our community deserve adequate funding. As a teacher, we often teach our students that your actions speak louder than words. I hope I have reminded you tonight that even as adults, this still holds true. Thank you to those of you who support our schools with not only words, but actions. And thank you to everyone for your time.
Okay, thank you. Kelly?
Kelly Hemler, 10 Hartford Ave. I'm going to keep this really short. Our households have to live within our means. The town should live within their means as well. Inflation is terrible. It's affecting us all. It's going to, if you raise taxes, I think it's going to be a disaster. So I know a lot of you have worked hard to bring the numbers down, and I appreciate your hard work. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Josh.
Good afternoon. Joshua Hamry, 52 New King Street. It is freezing in this room. I don't know what else to say about that part, but it's noticeable that the room temperature is like 60. I'm not nearly as well versed or well prepared as everybody that spoke so far, so bear with me as I put my thoughts together. And I'm going to address most of this to everybody except Councilor Santinella, because Councilor Santinella was quick in the process of bringing to our attention, as a current board member that is, that our budget has been woefully underfunded over the last some odd years, and encouraged that we pursue an even greater increase, because he recognizes the need of the district and the students in it, given all the challenges that they face. So, having said that, I can't assume that you've all watched the Board of Ed meetings, because I promise you I have not watched all the town council meetings. We have our own things to work on. You'll have your own things to work on. And it's very, very infrequently that these worlds collide too often. Always at budget time, but hardly ever at any other points during the year. So with that, I want to just give a quick recap to the budget discussions that we've had among our board meetings, where Superintendent Drezek has clearly outlined the need over the last half a year as to why this district is in the position it's in with relation to the mental health, behavioral health issues of the students, and largely based on the distance learning that the students have endured for the 2+ years that the COVID impact has had its effect on us as a district. And I don't want to go too far away from that point without thanking the teachers that made that distance learning possible and did so on the drop of at the drop of a dime. It was an insurmountable task that they met anyway. So back to the Superintendent Drezek's reports that he's provided us. Our district has been suffering for some time as the reports show, with the behavioral health issues that are coming up, that are predictable based on the issues that were observed during the pandemic. They're all coming to fruition now. Those issues are not no longer a guess. They're based on empirical evidence of issues affecting the students. And also the staff. So let's not think that the students are separate from the staff. They're one and the same. They've been suffering the same kind of stressors that are not going to go away for a very long time. They're generational. So we have a need to support our students and our staff with additional resources. Again, as Councilor Santinella pointed out, that we have a need to do more for these students and staff, based on the fact that the stressors have been unreal. Now, I've sat in this room for at least a decade as a member of this audience, listening to both town council and Board of Ed members as they spoke about all sorts of things, from closing schools, to armed guards, to tax increases, to all of these things. I've been on this side of the room more often than I've been on that side of the room. So I've heard the conversations over the years. I remember very clearly a conversation that took place, and if I recall correctly, it was Chairman Greco that was in position at the time, where a 0% budget was proposed for the Board of Ed, and it was very clearly stated during that meeting, again, probably at least 10 years ago, that a 0% increase is in fact a reduction of budget to the Board of Ed because of inflation. And we've heard very clearly tonight that inflation surpasses what this request is based on. We're not meeting that mark. We're not hitting the mark that we should be meeting to provide our students and our staff with the resources they need to maintain the current levels of services and education and academia performances. This has so very little to do with the ARPA funding, just to put that out there. We do have ARPA funding, there's no doubt about that, and I want to give credit to the superintendent for having the foresight to pass that funding through on a gradual basis that allows us to maximize the funding over 5 and 6 years versus 1 and 2 years that other districts have done. The other districts in the state have done a lot of that ARPA funding in the current time. They've gone double-digit proposals for their budget increases as a result because they didn't have the foresight. Superintendent Dresdick did, and we have been able to extend the use of that ARPA funding for some time. I do appreciate the opportunity to speak to you this evening. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody else that would like to approach the council?
Walter J. Cruzel, 21 Charnley Road. I handed you all, I was playing Bob T-Cats this earlier. I handed you all a graph. Explanation of the graph. Oh, wait a minute, that's the old graph. Okay. I was handed this by a friend of mine and a past colleague of mine on the board when I became chairman. The purpose of the graph is to show you where our school budget was back in '97 and up to 2008 when the town took over the buildings. That's not me. When the town took over the buildings and the IT, and then the blue line is a continuation of where we are today. So we're right around the 74 million. Now, if we didn't take over or give back the buildings, and also the presentation of, again, that's not me, and given the presentation of how we are underfunding education, you have to follow the red line. And the red line brings you up almost to $95 million for a Board of Ed budget. And that's the number that should be divided per student and how much we spend per student, because that's the town's portion of the buildings and the IT that the Board of Ed gave back to the town. So the presentation you gave to the Modernization Committee had the wrong data. You're comparing apples and crab apples. You're not comparing apples and apples. To go by the red line, that would be apples and apples. So that's all I have to say on that. So that's just something to point out that, you know, and you know, inflation is only the last couple of years. And we know where we were in inflation a couple of years ago. So it goes back to that person up on the picture up there. So we'll just leave it at that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Walter. Is there anybody else that would like to approach the council?
My name is Peter Janitis, 3 Farmstead Circle. And right off the bat, I just want to say, I don't mean to offend the teachers that are here, but I know you're going to feel offended. One speaker got up here and said starting salaries for starting teachers in town are somewhere in the $40-something thousand. She didn't mention the top salaries. And she's wrong on the first one, too. I had to go down to the clerk to get a copy of the last contract to look at a couple weeks ago. And from what I saw on this present year coming, for the final year of their contract, the starting salary is $53,000 or $54,000 per teacher. The top salary, now hold your pants here, after 12 years of teaching, when you reach max, you're going to be making $103,000. That's not including the medical benefits, which usually kick out to be about $20,000 to $25,000 for a family. That's not gravy. The ability of the town of Enfield, now I've negotiated contracts both for the teachers and when I was on the board, once against the teachers. The ability to pay for the town of Enfield has always hovered around 146th out of 169 towns in the state of Connecticut. The median salary for wages in this town is far below the state average. 146th in the ability to pay, and then just look at the average salaries of the people in this town. We don't have a lot of money. Hence, we can't contribute like other towns around the state. There's argument about we're cutting the school board. It's the same thing that's made down in Congress in Washington, D.C., when somebody says, oh, you're cutting X amount from Social Security or Medicare or whatever. What's being cut is the raise, the amount of money that you want to increase by. And that's what I think these people over here are trying to do, is to cut the amount being spent. I honestly don't think teachers are going to be cut one way or the other. Now, I remember when I first came on the school board in Andre, he was talking about cutting 100 teachers. We didn't cut one teacher, not one. So as far as being able to contribute to education, please let that number sink in. Where we are, 146th, or around that area. We just don't have the amount of money to spend. I love teaching. I did it for 38 years. I admire most of the teachers that I've known. It's a reality that you have to face. Now, if you weren't paying, say, $103,000 plus that big medical benefit, if you just took a few bucks off of that, put it back into the education for the kids, a lot of the money doesn't go right there. It really doesn't. And I'll be back up to speak for what I came to speak for, unless you want me to finish it now. Okay, the main reason I came to speak tonight was the $700,000 increase or allotment that you want to do for pickleball courts. We have large indoor gymnasiums in town. You got Fermi sitting up there with a big gym. You've got tennis courts, multiple tennis courts around town, a large complex up at Fermi. You have them behind Enfield High. There are numerous outdoor tennis courts that could be very easily fitted for pickleball, thereby saving you $700,000. You have the Mark Twain courts, the health courts. At the health club, they have pickleball courts on their basketball court. It's very easy to do that. Now, where have all the tennis courts in this town gone? A lot of them have just been bulled over. The last one I remember seeing people playing tennis on, they don't even exist anymore, were the ones at JFK about 3 or 4 years ago before they started all the reconstruction. And those courts are just simply gone now. But we paid a lot of money to get them in. The lights were always on until 10 o'clock at night. Tennis is a fad. It came, it went. It's not played as much as it used to be. Racquetball, the health club, they used to have, I think, 10 or 11 courts there. I think they're down to 2 now. The fad has come, it's gone. Basketball courts all over town. I wasn't even aware of the one that you wanted to build for $200,000. There's a lot of basketball courts in this town that are being used or not used all the time. Pickleball, too, will come and go because it's an old people's game, and I'd like to try it sometime. But with the price of gas, the price of food, rents going up, the fire taxes coming in, the car taxes going up, the insane assessments that have been forced upon certain people, inflation, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, it's getting very expensive for the average person to get by. Try your best to get that budget to a reasonable level. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody else that would like to approach the council? Lucian.
Lucian Lefebvre, 54 Kimberly Drive, also chairman of the Enfield Veterans Council. I'm going to talk on a little bit lighter note than what's been going on. I'm here to talk about our Memorial Day Parade, which is going to happen on Sunday, May 28th at 1 o'clock. Steps off from the Enfield Street School. Any group or organization wishing to be in the parade, it's not too late to let us know that you want to be involved in it. You can either call or text me at 860-463-7168. Again, 860-463-7168. More than happy to bring more participants into the parade. Our guest speaker this year is going to be Colonel Billy Adams, longtime member of the Connecticut Army National Guard, deployed to Iraq, Afghanistan. And he will be our guest speaker, and the person that's going to be laying the wreath this year on the town green is last year's recipient of the Enfield Patriot Award, Jerry Thibodeau. So, again, come out for the parade, line up along the street, show your care for the veterans, and most importantly, if you can come down to the green for the ceremony. It's a short ceremony. And we have the wonderful Enfield High School band that shows off their talent at the green, playing the different military songs and some other patriotic music. So they're proud of their accomplishments. Come out and support the Enfield High Band and the veterans, and please attend the ceremony at the green. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Donna Dubanowski, 23 Betty Road. Good evening. All right, I'll start with the building at 810 Enfield Street. It'll come off the tax rolls, and you'll pay double what the town is saying the building is worth. Who negotiated that deal? Pay double what it's worth, and then the addition built onto it to have the bathrooms that Gina wants. Spillway money, private lake, that I'm not allowed to go on. The reason for the money is because it'll cause flooding all over town. No, it can't, period. Claiming Bacon, Cozy, North Maple, which are all south of the spillway, are going to flood. I want to ask FEMA then why those properties were given letters stating they are not in the flood area. Also, how many homes directly on the lake require flood insurance? So no ARPA funds should be used for a private lake spillway. BOE budget. I ask one thing. What cost? What number is the right number per student? We're at 15 plus. Is the number 20, 25? What's the magic number? Tax mill rate's going to go up to 30.56 this July if this budget passes. After the ridiculous increases in our assessments during the reevaluation by the town assessor and Vision Appraisal, that rate is almost back to what the mill rate was prior to the revaluation. If people do the math quickly, it looks like they would go up anywhere from $500 to $1,000 per household just in real estate, never mind the fire district and sewer taxes that are also going to be going up. Car mill rate is at 29.21 mils. Multiply that times the overinflated car assessments, and wow, can't wait for everyone's reaction if this passes when they get their July tax bills. It's a huge increase. Please do what you can. We cannot afford this. Thank you. Have a great night.
Sherry Winans, 1227 Enfield Street. Just point of clarification to our salaries that were spoken about. I'm an Enfield public school teacher, loud and proud. This is my 31st year, just about to finish my 31st year. And I just would like for you to support the budget as is, because cutting back is not going to help anybody. But I wanted to give you a point of clarification on our salaries. Someone spoke before about them, and I just wanted you to know that we have a 4-step level. There is a Group A, a Group B, a Group C, and a Group D, and it is based on your bachelor's, your master's, 30 credits beyond your master's, and then a PhD. Starting salary for someone that has their bachelor's is $44,539. If you have your master's, then you start at $47,324. And if you happen to have your 6th level when you start, which is not very normal, you start at $51,000. At the top of those group numbers is $86,309 for someone with their bachelor's, $91,776 for someone with their master's. With their 6th level, as we call it, $98,365, and the over $100,000 comes if you have your PhD. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Is there anybody else that would like to approach the council?
Good evening. I'm Phil Dumont from 13 Celtic Court in Enfield, and I'd probably start a little bit with a little background. Actually, this is my first time ever. I've lived in this town for 66 years, ever been at a meeting. But I've watched it closely the whole time. I'm an accountant by trade for 40-some-odd years, and I wrote to the council on April 29th, and I won't read it so much, I'll try and remember it. So my career has been in accounting, but I've also been a corporate budget manager for 4 or 5 years. Actually, I'm learning a lot right here just listening to the comments, because, especially with the Board of Ed, and I'll get to that in a second, but don't take anything I say about teachers or police or anybody the wrong way. When we're talking about budgets, you're trying to look at numbers that and no one knows what it should be. It's a process, and it's a hard process. And I feel for all of you, because as a budget manager, I'm looking at this, and I'm like, wow. Your job is not easy. I was like, this is the approach. I would love to help somebody to make your job easier to do this, because when I see budget to budget to budget as comparisons, that's nonsense. Actuals. The only thing that matters is actuals. And you've got to look at actuals, and then you go from that. You consider inflation. And then I'm getting a great education on this. I've looked around the state. I've looked at comparative towns with grand lists. So what's your driver here in this budget is what we can afford to pay, as Kelly said, I said earlier. That's about what this is all about. You can have all you want, but what can we afford to pay? So in Enfield, our grand list is up 0.89%, less than 1%. That tells me if you want to hold the mill rate, assuming there aren't other revenue issues that I'm not aware about, and this is a learning process, but you got $1.3 million you can add to last year's budget, and you're going to leave the mill rate alone, I assume. I'll probably be corrected, but in general terms. So, but in business, right here, I mean, you can raise the rates all you want, but who's paying? The taxpayer. Who's the customer? In business, I have to look in our business, when we have a budget, we're in deep competition with other people. If our expenses rise, we just can't raise our prices because we lose business. So you're in a difficult position here. So, and I don't want to, I look at this, when I saw 145 million budget and going to 156 million, I about came out of my shoes. I'm, as a corporate budget manager, I would have thrown it back and said no. Now, but I shouldn't say that because with all due respect to Ellen, I know in one of her comments she said it was a Christmas list. Now, that's okay if that's the way you want to run the process. Put everything on the table and then weed through it. That's okay. But at this late cycle, I kind of think it should start earlier for some of that. So you got to, this leadership, this council's got to set a target. You probably got 1.3 million to start from last year's budget, but I really would like to look at actuals. And particularly, you take one of the latest 9 months actuals and annualize that, I would look at that to set your budget from 9 months actuals. Then go there. Other towns, interestingly enough, there's some great things around the state I'm learning. One budget package shows the grand list for the last 5 or 6 years and how it's trended. That's what you can afford. Essentially, it's your economic base in this town. I mean, South Windsor has the opposite problem. Is they're going down 5 mills. Why? Because they're Evergreen Walk and I don't know all the other incidentals, but their grand list went way up. And so they are able to spend, they're not, obviously their mill rate, their spending's not going up 26%, but I think they're going 8 or 9%, but they're getting a generous increase in the tax revenue. So, I mean, this is not an easy task. And I really say that, like, you're really this, and I'll give you another example. When people sit here and say, what can you afford? My mother-in-law lives on Kelly Street. She's 94 years old. She retired in 1985. She gets a $258 pension in 1985 and it hasn't changed a penny. So when you're thinking everybody can afford 3 and 4%, that's not the case. They get $1,100 a month Social Security. How do they live? That's what I'd like to know. They live on nothing. And so her taxes from 1985, and I should have went and checked it, but I will bet it's gone up 2.5 times since she retired. So everybody says, oh, it's only 3%, over 3%. The compounding effect of this is pretty dramatic. So I really think you got to hold the line because, I mean, look at the grand list. What's going on in town, right? We've got Mass Mutual buildings out there, right? We're losing some of our bases. We need to build the base because the better you have the economic base, the easier it is for you to fund everything. Without raising the mill rate. So, I mean, it's important. And then the other thing here is I really probably apologize to the other gentleman before me, but if I ever say anything about the Board of Ed money or budget, don't take it personally. I strongly believe in education. I graduated in this school system with 35 kids in a classroom. I'm not suggesting we go back to that. Poor teachers. But we survived, and I mean, this system had 13,000 students at one point in the 60s. It was exploding. But I mean, you really gotta look at what you can afford and go with that. I also I've been on the trustee on the foundation at Asnutta Community College. Been a business advisory board at Holyoke Community College. I've been on the National Education Committee at the Institute of Management Accountants nationwide. So I truly believe in education. So when I say, all right, take your actuals in education, and to be quite honest with you, if you want to go look at Town of Farmington's budget for education, they got a nice, short, 5-page summary about everything. Here's where we're going, and here's exactly where the increases are. I don't see that in this book. In fact, I had the Board of Ed part here, I thought, wow, I'm lost. It does not clearly, there's no executive summary that tells me I'm going from this to this and why. And that's important. So, and it would simplify all your lives as well. So I'll leave it at that. I used up my time. Thank you for all your work.
Thank you. Okay, is there anybody else that would like to approach the council?
Joseph Goles Jr., 31 Stardust Drive, in the town of Enfield. District 1, thank you, Councilor Nelson. And District 1, the legend, Joe Bosco. My career was in manufacturing, engineering, supply chain, in electronics and electrics. And then I went into education. I spent 16 years full-time and 3 years part-time. At the end of my career, I taught chemistry, physics, and biology, especially chemistry. That's my degree, that's my master's work, and that's my graduate work. I taught in summers in 2000, and in April we had pink slips, 24 of them, because of the .com. And we had a lower inflation rate, and we didn't have what we have now, which is not only a lower inflation rate, but we had a better supply chain than we do now. We were not heavily invested in China. I see people talking about, if I was Superintendent Drezek, you're talking about positions you cannot fill. You're trying to fill currently 2 earth science positions. Let me say that chemistry is considered a master science. Why? Because it's in earth science, every earth science, it's in biology, and it's in physics. I know only physics can dispute us because of the wave theory. Therefore, number one, in order to affect excellent education in Enfield, you have what we didn't have in the 60s, 70s, and 80s. And what we had in the 60s, 70s, and 80s, as the previous gentleman said, was half-time school, half sessions, and we were able still to put men on the moon, develop all the chemistry for these electronics. That was my father and my generation. It wasn't the engineers that put this together. We had to give them the building blocks. Number two, we had Mr. Yankee with a planetarium up at Fermi. We have all the buildings we need in order to take whatever we need to do for cuts. We have the annex. Very few towns have the annex, where we can bring our adult ed over there, including our ELL, should be a family thing at the annex. We have the 2 new schools. I taught, started in '94 with a piece of chalk, a chalkboard that had to be cleaned, or you put a note to maintenance, do not clean this important chemical equation. Now we have, teachers have electronic smart boards. That was my last 2 years of part-time teaching. Electronic smart boards give you all the lesson plans you can create. Why we're buying licenses for some electronic curriculum, I don't understand. Now, we talk about decreasing the budget. Well, I'm going to bring Enfield into the Hartford legislature. They have House Bills 6642. If it passes, and remember, I said this is the town of Enfield. It's not the cities that are controlling our legislature. They are working on Title IX compliance toolkit. Title IX is for women in sports. They are working on, if that passes, and it probably will, Title IX monies for coordinator and training resources. Who do you think is going to fund some of that next year? The Hartford legislature? The Department of Education? They are also working on House Bill 6207, implement the recommendations of Social and Emotional Learning and School Climate Advisory Collaborative, and they want money for that. That's going to come out of our taxes in the subsequent years. They are also working on HB 06189, mandatory training program for educators to help students suffering from mental illness. Whether I'm for or against, I'm not against mental health issues, but that requires money. They are also working on Senate Bill 1199, Equity in Education, lines 345 to 358. Schools should consider, well, they don't say consider, they want subject matter on Native, Asian, and Pacific populations. Okay. Sexual orientation and gender identity studies, climate change, digital citizenship, media literacy, principles of social emotional learning, racism, cursive writing. Oh, they're bringing back cursive writing. I love that. My students love when I wrote cursive. Not cursing. They didn't curse me. World languages in kindergarten. That's what's happening in Hartford. So no matter what you decide on the budget, more money is going to be demanded of Enfield. This is the town of Enfield. We've already put buildings on our farmland. If Enfield wants its history, you put a building up called Agricultural Education, not the VOAG in Suffield, and go through and teach our students and their families how to do a compost pile, how to raise vegetables. Enfield has always educated this way, and it's definitely in the 60s, 70s, and 90s. This is what education is: food around the world, water, shelter, energy, electricity. Do we use it right? Should we have a master grid? Should we put in the ocean a wind turbine at 2 megawatts per hour versus a natural gas-fired power plant? And transportation. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Is there anybody else that would like to approach the council? I declare public communications over. Next, councilor communications. Is there anybody? Councilor Nelson.
Okay, first I need to read a couple of emails from residents who could not attend tonight, and they asked me to read them into the record, and I didn't know if it was proper to do it under public communications, so I'm going to read them right now.
Go ahead.
All right. This is from Susan Demers. I have lived my whole life in Enfield, Connecticut. We bought a house here in 2001 to stay close to our parents. When we had children, we crunched the numbers to see if one of us could stay home and raise them. It was going to be tight, but we decided it was worth it. Since then, our taxes have about doubled, and we have a separate sewer tax on top of it. We cut out many services and economized as best as we could. My husband works in manufacturing, and there has been times when, with a slow economy, that he has not received a raise, or if he did, it was rather small. His company ended the pension program soon after he began working there in order to save more money. So our economic situation has not improved very much, especially now that inflation is hurting us from all sides. For example, our homeowners insurance just went up about $300, and you already know about the huge increase in basics like food, fuel, and electricity. We are trying to keep up our home the best we can on a shoestring budget. We cannot absorb another tax increase. If we are in this boat, I am sure there are others facing the same situation and even more dire circumstances in our hometown. Do not raise the mill rate. Find ways to keep costs low in these tough economic times. I was disappointed to hear that the monies we sought to cover raises because of union negotiated increases. Government does not make a product and therefore does not have profit from which to draw raises. We should not allow public employees to negotiate against ourselves. It doesn't make sense. The money comes from the people, and we are pretending there is an unlimited supply from which to draw. There is not. I wonder why, when private businesses all around us have ended pensions, public workers still enjoy extremely lucrative pensions, again, counting on an endless supply of public tax dollars. Eventually, this house of cards is going to collapse. We need to take a hard stand and fix these issues that are not in the public's best interest in the long run before they break us. We cannot keep thinking that the townspeople will just give up another 200 here or 300 there. Some of us need that money as our budgets are extremely tight, and we already had to make cuts in our lifestyle, and there is not much more left to give. It is depressing to feel pushed out of Enfield since we've spent our whole lives here. In fact, my brother-in-law has already left for the lower taxes of East Windsor. I'd like to be able to stay here to continue to help my father and sister who live near me. When people are looking to buy, I imagine higher taxes make Enfield a less desirable choice. We should be making Enfield an affordable place for people to raise families. Do not raise our mill rates. And that was Susan and David Demers, 44 Dale Road. Now I have another one too, but this elderly couple would like to remain anonymous because they're proud. Okay. I wrote this email to you. It just gets into that. Like one of the people were saying, they're an elderly couple, they've cut everything out of their budget, and their kids are actually paying for their internet service. And they don't know where they're going to come up with $50 more a month, and they're just heartbroken. I mean, they couldn't come here, and that's what they said about that. So that's not my time, but you can go on with public or councilman now.
Okay, thank you. Councilor Mangini.
Thank you. Just briefly, I do want to thank our town manager and staff for quickly addressing the branch that has been stuck in the wires on Middle Road forever and ever and a day. Very much appreciated. Now, I'm not so concerned it's going to come crashing on somebody's head. I also want to thank the town staff for seeing to it that the patch of road that was chopped up on Middle Road has been addressed very nicely. Thank you. And again, with the quickness and the promptness and the professionalism goes beyond words. So I just want to bring that out there. Public Works, town staff, and town manager. Also, I just want to again congratulate Jerry Kalnin, our Dr. Kalnin, one of our board members. Kite presented a beautiful buddy bench in his honor at the Pearl Street Library, and I can't think of any other person that is deserving of such an award, a recognition as Dr. Kalnin, and people should stop by and take a look at it. I know some of us on the council were there, and our mayor participated in the ribbon cutting, but it was a beautiful ceremony, and we're very proud of Dr. Kalnin. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Are there any other councilor communications? Councilor Nelson.
Okay, to address some of the questions that came up under public communication. The chart that was given out, I don't know if the numbers are 100% accurate, but I do know the point they're making is correct. The $15,000 per student does not reflect the town of Enfield funding the new schools and the maintenance of the school buildings. People say, well, the state of Connecticut paid for the new schools. No, the state covered 70%. The town of Enfield covered 30%. And I believe between the two is $50 million that is coming out of taxpayers' pockets here in Enfield. All of it's coming out of our pockets one way or another, but directly $50 million. So if you add that share to the cost for the students and the other things that this council does, like the SROs and stuff like that, if it is $95 million, as the gentleman said, divide that by 4,600 students, which is what they're saying is the current enrollment, that's $20,652.17 per student. Another person came up and said, oh, don't use the schools. We can't use the buildings. That doesn't work. Of course, it doesn't work for your narrative, okay? But it does work for the real numbers, and the numbers don't lie. If using the cost per student is the way to base a great education, then why is the highest cost per student in the state of Connecticut the worst school system? And that's the city of Hartford. I do believe in funding the schools, and I definitely support the referendum for the grammar schools. I think it was a great thing that this town did, the councils did, with the high school and JFK, and we need to finish it. Unfortunately, in this budget, if it doesn't pass, we're in trouble, because the school roofs and the boilers and all the other maintenance things that have been ongoing, they're completely cut out of this budget. So please help us support the budget in November. I support it, and we have to. The schools have been neglected. I'm not going to get into politics or the 15 years or 30 years. It doesn't matter at this point. The schools have been neglected since the day they were built, and we're doing our share to make it right. I find it very disheartening that of the people who spoke about our $1.4 million cut to the Board of Education, out of 42,000 residents that came, only the teachers came. And the teachers are the one directly affected and who deal with my grandchildren on a daily basis. But what they didn't say, or a comment was made that we made our budget behind closed doors. All the budgets were public. And I saw some of the Board of Education members there. We were concerned that there's $1 million in the cafeteria fund. Somebody says we can't use it. The state hasn't made the decision on that yet. Also, the other $400,000 I was looking at was $600,000 for this private security force that has zero authority in the schools. A teacher with a walkie-talkie is just as useful as hiring $600,000 worth of security guards. So there's the $400,000, and with the remaining $200,000, I wanted to fund more SROs, which are actual police officers, because they're the ones who are going to make the difference when it comes down to an incident that none of us even want to talk about. So there's the $1.4 million that we were reducing the increase by. So if they got the cafeteria fund for the $1 million from the school, and they followed what I was proposing for that $400,000, it would have been a zero cut to you guys. Nothing. It would have been fully funded. So I just wanted to clarify that. The basketball court at Wallop School Park. We can't just keep bulldozing parks. Every time there's a problem, we're bulldozing them. And that's the answer. And some of you now, because you want to fund schools, say bulldoze a park. But when Brainerd Park was an issue, everybody was up in arms. Don't touch Brainerd Park. Leave it alone. We have to fund schools. We have to fund parks. We have to fund everything. But there's only so much money to go around. We're trying, all of us, and we put a lot of time into this. We may not agree with each other. We may have different ways to do it. Look at the amount of money that's been invested in the school system buildings since the town took them over. That's all I'm asking you. The town is trying its best. We're dealing with a sinkhole right now that's going to cost you and me, I'm going to say $200,000-$300,000 to fix. Unexpected. Before noontime today, we didn't have to spend it. Now we do. So again, my biggest concern is if that referendum don't pass, this budget is a serious problem. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councilor Nelson. Is there anybody else that would like to? Yeah, Councilor Santinella.
Yeah, just a comment, and I'll hold the majority of my comments later during the budget as we pass the budget. The numbers that I have presented in my presentation are uniform throughout the school districts. One district doesn't present the cost of the buildings and another one doesn't. It is uniform in terms of dollars spent per student. And I will, I stand 100% behind the numbers that I used and the analysis that I did. We are where we are. And so we can talk more about that later, and I can share more analysis about that if necessary. I do want to say I didn't have an opportunity because I was not here at the last meeting, but I did have a chance to go to the Eppendorf grand opening. And I'm bringing it up now because I want to just point out what Mr. Dumont said about our economic development and how important that is to all the other conversations that were going on, and also to agree with Councilor Nelson. We cannot continue to balance our budget on homeowners. Our economic machine needs to be turned into high gear, and people need to think about that. We need to think about that as we have people coming here with opportunities who are looking to invest in our community and grow our grand list. It minimizes the problems that we're creating for ourselves by not encouraging them to come here. You know, we still have a mall that's 20 years in the making to be rejuvenated. And, you know, how much longer are we going to wait? How much longer are we going to say private industry is going to take care of it? It's not going to take care of it. They haven't done it yet. They've taken it for what it's worth, and there it sits. The Taj Mahal to mediocrity. And we really need to start thinking about the economic machine that is not working here. And it's big business, it's small business, and as much as people are offended by the fact that there's incentives that are giving to these businesses, in the long term, these are the things that ultimately mitigate the need to increase taxes. So I was very proud to be at the Eppendorf grand opening, to have their CEO here from Hamburg, Germany, talking about how much she loved Enfield, thanked the community for all that it's done to support them, talked about bringing new jobs here. I mean, it was the kind of conversation from an international company that wants to grow their presence here. It was exciting. And, you know, we need to think about, if we want that company to continue to grow here, what do we need to continue to do to encourage companies like that to bring their employees here? You know what was most upsetting? Their CEO lives in Summers. That was upsetting to hear. I wish that that guy said that he lived here, and when I asked him why, schools. So it makes a difference. And I think, you know, I said to you guys the other night, and I'll end my comments, we can blame each other for the problems. I didn't run for office to do that. I want to try to fix stuff. And so I think it's about how we move forward. And you know, I'm encouraged by this budget. I think it sets us in the right direction. I don't think it goes as far as it could. I think we have some big problems we need to solve, but that's it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councilor Hopkins.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just want to briefly thank everybody from the community and all the folks on the council for the work they put into this budget. It's a lot of work. I know a lot of people followed closely. I know a couple budget books went out amongst the community. You know, despite this, I think, fundamental and deep disagreement about school funding and maybe some other things, there's a lot of compromise here, and I just wanted to point that out. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councilor Hopkins. Councilor Pisner.
I just want to make my remark to Ms. McGuire Bruce. I do stand by what I said, that education is the best gift we can give our children. And if anybody knows me, they know that's true. And I have worked very hard to make sure that our schools are good. And I raised two great daughters in our school system. And I was extremely active in the school system. We are representing the entire town in its entirety, the elderly, the disabled. This budget is going to hurt some of those people. So as much as I would love to say, carte blanche, give our kids everything, the town is made up of different people. And we have to look out for each and every one of them. So please, I do agree with Councilor Nelson. I want to see the modernization pass. I don't know if it will because of this budget. Because people are going to tighten their belts. People are going to throw their hands up and say, I can't do this anymore. Every single one of us sitting in this room make choices. Every single day we make a choice. Whether it's in a grocery store, whether it's how much to put our heat on in the winter, when should we put our air conditioners in because of the electricity, every single one of us sitting here makes those choices. We have to make those choices. Our choices are for everybody. So the 1.4, Councilor Nelson explained how we came up with that. It wasn't a random number. It wasn't like, boom, you're the target. We were trying to do this fair for everyone. This budget is going to hurt. So again, I stand by what I said. I will always stand by education. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councilor Nelson.
Through the mayor to the town manager, Amanda Pickett brought up Parkman School, the playground, and the basketball courts. If we could have DPW take a look at that, but we're not tearing it down or shutting the courts down and removing equipment unless this council is aware of it and makes that decision. Okay? Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I just have a couple of quick announcements. I will be saving, excuse me, yep, Councilor Despert. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Sorry. Through the mayor to the town manager, Alan, I had a constituent email me right before this meeting, just inquiring about Willstar Circle and where that is in terms of being repaired. I'm not sure if some of my fellow councilors might have some answers on this too, but I instead of rather than shoot that off in an email, I was just wondering if you could look into that and get back to me. They're saying it's pretty bad. I guess the pipes were just removed too, and there's potholes there and things. So, thanks.
Okay, thank you. I'll be saving most of my budget comments for a little later on in the meeting today, but I do have a couple of quick announcements. This past week, going along with the manufacturing theme of all the work, the over 150 jobs that are going to be created at Eppendorf. I am really proud to say that as Nantucket Community College held their first ever manufacturing fair and competition. And this was all the community colleges throughout the state, plus Central Connecticut, which has a manufacturing program. And it was also stated there that this program's a great opportunity for high school students. I know that Enfield next year is going to be enrolling 36, I believe, students, 36 students that will be part of this particular program. And they'll be getting, not only will they be getting their high school credit, but they'll also be starting their degree program at Nantucket with the manufacturing program. And this past year, throughout the state of Connecticut and even at Nantucket, there were 200 students that were placed in employment in manufacturing. So if people are thinking about changing a career or students wanting to get into a trade, a manufacturing trade, there's a lot of people that through as Nantucket get placed at Pratt & Whitney. This is a great program. We don't even know this. We really have to be promoting this manufacturing program here in town a little more than what we're doing. So if you know anybody that is interested in changing a career and want to enroll in one of these programs that are offered at Nantucket, it's a great opportunity. Couple of other things. I know, Mr. Golish, you'd come up and you talked about adult ed and the English as a second language program. Those programs are housed at the annex. And so, yes, that building is being utilized for adult ed and English as a second language. Matter of fact, I think right now in the town of Enfield, I think there are 70-something different languages that are being spoken here in town. And so we are helping in that. Matter of fact, on June 8th, Adult Ed is having their graduation. Also, I just want to let everybody know that on June 1st, Special Olympic Torchlight Run is coming through Enfield, which starts the beginning of the state games, which are going to be held at Fairfield University. Our Enfield Police Department puts in a lot of time and effort into the state games. Come on out. I know the schools up and down Route 5. I know and then all the town employees. It's a nice caravan. Maybe you can even see me jog a few miles myself to support that. It's at 9 o'clock, June 1st. Another thing, Enfield Loaves and Fishes on June 10th is going to hold their 40th anniversary gala. It'd be nice to, everybody support that particular event. And also the 20th year anniversary of our senior center, June 7th. They're having a dinner. Appetizers start at 5 o'clock. I just had to make those announcements because I think it's important for our town and for people to get involved. And so thank you, but I'll hold off my other comments till later. All right, moving onward to the town manager report.
Good evening. I just have a few quick things, knowing that we have the budget ahead of us. First, in response to some of the public comments, we do have 2 grant writers on contract through using our ARPA funds. They are currently working on a grant for usage of Hazardville Institute to figure out that whole parking lot village district issue. We have them working on some technical grants in order to secure additional funds through Public Works for some projects. And there's several others that are in the pipeline. That is being paid for with ARPA funds, although I do agree that in this extremely competitive environment, having a grant writer on staff in addition to the employees that we have that do some of that would be something as a future need. LEGO is going to continue to fund the Family Resource Centers and its grant through fiscal year 2025. So we have already begun the transitioning process of identifying other business support in order to replace and supplant those dollars. I believe that the Parkman recreational area, we've had parents and others talk to us about this, and I believe it is on a future agenda for leisure services. The same can be held for the annex recreation area, which is severely deteriorated as well, with several unplayable facilities. Councilor Finger had brought up Willstar Circle at a previous meeting. That area has had a significant amount of Connecticut water work done there, which has disrupted the roadway. It is also, I believe, a neighborhood without curbs, and so there's been some debris issues as well as road conditions. I don't have my Public Works report with me tonight, but I will check on that to see if it's been thus scheduled. I haven't received an update since Councilor Finger asked about it. Moving on to some of our pressing issues. Some good news is that the staffing levels at the Early Childhood Development Center are going to resume at full schedule starting next Monday. I know that that has been a concern for many of you with some of our supply issue and demand issues with our staffing, but that's going to go back to full schedule on Monday. And we've also received a little bit of good news tempered with a little bit of bad news with the Scantic Park. The good news is that there's a new officer in this sector that has been assigned by the State Conservation Unit. But the bad news is that their seasonal hiring failed miserably, and they do not have as many seasonal help that is going to be circulating within our region. We belong to the Eastern District. So usually there are 2 rangers. We may or may not see them. So that is something that the Enfield Police Department has already started monitoring for parking and quality of life issues there. Once the budget is over, my plan is for the first meeting in June to have a complete vacancy list for all of you to review in advance, hopefully, if we can get it done. We are looking at a significant amount of vacancies on some boards and commissions, and we're also anticipating some turnover with some appointments that are coming due. Would really be very helpful for those of you who are so tapped into the community to help us identify names of people who would be qualified and interested to sit on those boards. And the plea also goes out to the public, especially those who are interested in policy. This is the best way to actually have an impact on your community, is to serve on a board or commission. It's usually no more than an hour, hour and a half commitment a month, and we're really looking to become a little bit more robust in some of those rosters. I'm going to ask Alex, oh, he's already done it. Alex has queued up for you some pictures that the assistant town manager and I have taken today, this afternoon. As Councilor Nelson mentioned, we have a very expensive sinkhole that developed right here at the intersection. The sinkhole was only about 6 inches in diameter, but if you looked into the hole, you could probably fit one of these trucks in the actual vacant space between that hole and the pipes. This is our Great Brook pump station, which pumps about 1 million gallons of sewage a minute. I mean, 1 million a day, 1,000 a minute. So we were there today. What you see, if Alex, if you could go back one slide to the trucks, we have 20 tankers from around the state backed up and connecting their pump to the station. And okay, you can advance it now, Alex. If you see that red machine that is in the on the left where that man is standing, that is one of the $40,000 pieces of equipment that you purchased last year. It is a temporary pump, so if you can see, there's hoses coming out of that pump station connecting to that machine, and what you're seeing on the right is one of the tankers that is now taking what it can capacity-wise. Anywhere there's 5,000-gallon trucks there's a 60,000-gallon truck. Then they're pulling out of the Great Brook pump station, which is behind the Legion on Route 5, and they are driving somewhere in the vicinity, opening a manhole, and then discharging into that manhole, hoping to hit a trunk line with a gravity pull so that the sewage will then re-enter our system and get into the facility in another location. I bring this up, and you can flip through the rest of the slides, Alex. This is our, I just did this an hour ago, so it's crooked, but that is the floor of the Great Brook pump station, which is scheduled for replacement. You can't really see it, but the big gray circle that appears on the top of the screen, if I had sent it correctly, that would have been on the bottom. If you look directly below it, there should be another one that matches that on the other side, but we took it out because we needed it at another pump station. So we've been cannibalizing our pump stations for years, and what happened out in the street today was the result of the fact that the pipes that you have in that section of the road are about 70 or 80 years old, and they're filled with asbestos, and when Mr. Hinckley went down and actually felt around trying to find it, it crumbled and disintegrated under his shovel. So we have a significant problem there, but it's also, I think, a great, albeit somewhat funny description of where we are. We're up to our knees in God knows what right now because of lack of investment in this system and others over the course of the years. You can substitute pump stations for education or public safety complexes or whatever. But unfortunately, you, as a town council that sits as a budget-making entity, also has to bear the burden of some of these decisions and deferred maintenance. I think those are all of the slides. This is just another section. That's Todd. So you could see that empty circle was where they actually took one off and replaced it. So we asked for several more of these in the budget. We didn't get them. So right now we're renting 2 or 3 of them that are positioned all around in order to get this out. Now again, sometimes you don't use all the equipment every day, but it's awfully nice to have it. But we really want to give a shout out to the finance department, who very quickly put together an emergency resolution that you're going to see when I finish my report, but I'm just going to cede the report over to Steve for a minute to just add to some of the personality piece.
So the town manager and I were a little late today because we were just down at that Great Brook pump station, and I want to just give a shout out to Director Donald Nunes. I saw Ken Boulette, Todd Mathewson, Mike Dudak, John Paul, A lot of other employees, JP, I'm going by memory here, some I don't even recognize yet, but they didn't even have lunch yet. It doesn't matter where they live. They're dedicated employees. They're working hard, and they see a distressed community, and they're staying until they get this thing fixed. All those 20 trucks that are lined up, there's no guarantee they're going to stay. We don't have a contract with them. We're there at their mercy from all over the state, Newtown, all over they came. We need them to help get this bypass from the raw sewage at this pump station past this break in the road. If you see the police right there, you see the emergency vehicles, down to the water treatment plant. But because of their reputation in the industry, Todd Mathewson, Mike Dudek, they're here helping us out. So we're fortunate, and we need to take a pause and recognize we got some employees to be proud of. That's all I want to say.
Thank you, Steve.
Yeah, just real quickly, Mr. Mayor, just a reminder, you may have heard we have land use training coming up a week from next Thursday, Thursday, June 1st, and this is a requirement. The legislature passed Public Act 21-29 last year. All of our land use commissioners have to have 4 hours of training by the end of this calendar year, and by March 1 of next year, the boards and commissions have to report to you, the legislative body, affirming that they've had the training. So to make it easier for them, Thursday, June 1, 7 p.m. in this very room, the Office of the Town Attorney is going to do a block of training. So we just want to encourage all of our land use commissioners to please join us here Thursday, June 1, 7 p.m., council chambers. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much.
And then the last piece would be, within your folders tonight is the resolution. It would, at this point, we'd like to ask that one of you bring it onto the floor, that there be a motion to vote it onto the floor, and then to ask for a motion to pass that resolution.
Sure. Can I?
Yeah, Deputy Mayor Scala.
So I'd like to suspend the rules and bring forth a motion to bring a request for bid waiver for the trucking services for the emergency sewage line repairs onto the floor for discussion and vote.
Second.
Okay, a second by Councilor Mangini. Any discussion on this? All in favor? It's unanimous. I will read the resolution now. Be it resolved that the Town Council does hereby find, based on the foregoing compelling public interest and in accordance with Town Charter, Chapter 5, Section 8D, that is therefore against the best interest of the town to solicit bids for the purchase of trucking services. Date prepared 5/15/23, prepared by Donald T. Nunes, Director of Public Works.
So moved.
Councilor Mangini, a second by Councilor Nelson. Any discussion on this? Sheila, roll call.
Counselor Despard.
4.
Counselor Finger.
4.
Counselor Hopkins.
4.
Counselor Ludwig.
4.
Counselor Mangini.
4.
Counselor Nelson.
4.
Counselor Pisner.
4.
Counselor Santinella.
4.
Counselor Ungary.
4.
Deputy Mayor Sakala.
4.
And Mayor Corsati.
4.
11 in favor, none against.
Item 10, report of special committees of the council. I believe we have none tonight. Item 11, unfinished business. There is none. And moving on to item 12, new business under consent agenda. In order to expedite the meeting so the budget is the main focus, there are several items for which I believe we have consensus for the consent agenda. There are 5 items, and they are listed below. Would anyone like to remove any of the items 1 through 5 for discussion? Councilor
Number 1,
Hopkins.
Mr. Mayor.
Okay, discussion resolution, item 1, we will take off, and this is the acquisition of property known as 810 Enfield Street.
I'd like to make a
Okay,
motion
do
to
you-
approve the consent agenda as amended.
Second.
Okay, as amended, and a second by Councilor Hopkins. All right. All in favor? Unanimous? Okay, Ms. Off. Okay, so, what do we?
now just deal
Okay,
with that.
now this will be a discussion on the acquisition of property known as 810 Enfield Street. Councilor Hopkins.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just wanted to note again for the public, this is $400,000 at minimum. I know as we're sitting here discussing, $1.4 million for the school budget, I think this would go a long way. I don't think the town needs a nicer probate court. It definitely would be more accessible to folks, but I think what we have right now works just fine. And I think, if it's not the school that this money would go to, we have a huge problem right in front of Town Hall. I think it would be much better served there. So I think this is really something that we should consider, especially because I've heard the value of this building is maybe a little bit less than what we would be paying for. I may be outvoted here, but I think for folks to say that they're really concerned about the budget and to then, run this through, I think that's wrong. Thank you.
Councilor Mangini.
Thank you. With all respect, Councilor Hopkins, we're comparing apples and oranges. School budget has got absolutely nothing to do with the purchase of a building. And the purchase of this building is only going to benefit the town of Enfield. And as a realtor, I will tell you, and I think Councilman Nelson will back me up on this, this is a steal at this price, because they're going to be lining up down the street trying to get properties at this price. So I definitely am going to support this. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Is there any other discussion on this, Councilor Nelson?
I also have to disagree with Councilman Hopkins. This particular project will benefit the entire town, considering probate courts going in there, and that is our job, is to represent the entire town and all its citizens, unlike, say, maybe a spillway that's for a private community that the rest of the town can't use, but they have to pay for it. So I will be supporting this.
Okay, I will be in support of this also. I think it's a great idea to extend our town campus.
Mr. Mayor, point of order. I think we think you may need to just move the resolution to forward, right? It was taken off consent, as long as that's coming.
Yes, I was just making one little comment before we move on for the vote. Okay. Okay. The resolution is as follows. Be it resolved that the town council authorizes the town manager or her designee to execute and sign all documents necessary for the acquisition of property located at 810 Enfield Street, date prepared May 1st, 2023, prepared by Ellen Zapusasser, the town manager.
So moved.
Deputy Mayor Sakala, and a second by Councilor Mangini. Any further discussion on this? Yeah, Councilor Despard.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, I too will support this. I think it's, real estate's kind of a hot commodity. It's a good investment for the town, and I think it's not an opportunity that will come up again. But I did also just want to say that repairing the spillway has greater implications than just the residents, the tax-paying residents at Shaker Pines. It's well known that if that spillway were to falter, it would severely impact other parts of the town, not Shaker Pines exclusively. And doing this, it's a small investment to save the town potentially millions in dollars of liability if it were to flood in other areas. So I just, we can't keep litigating this over and over and over again. I get that some people don't agree with it, but to say that it's just exclusively for Shaker Pines is wrong, and hopefully we can move on.
Okay, thank you. Sheila, roll call.
Councilor Despard?
4.
Councilor Finger?
4.
Councilor Hopkins?
Against.
Councilor Ludwig?
4.
Councilor Mangini?
4.
Councilor Nelson?
4.
Councilor Pisner?
4.
Councilor Santinella?
4.
Councilor Ungary?
4.
Deputy Mayor Casala?
4.
And Mayor Crissati?
4.
That's 10 in favor, 1 against, no abstentions.
Okay, moving on to item B, appointments, town council appointments. I'd like to do all three of these appointments on one motion, and we'll have a voice vote, and a hand vote. So there's three of them. Enfield Beautification, the term of office of Christine Sarles expired 12/1/22. Replacement will be Angelica Chekanowski. The Enfield Cultural Arts Commission, term of Stephanie McElgiverny, expired, and reappointment will be until June 1st, 2025. And then the Enfield Cultural Arts Commission, Emily Clifford is a reappointment until 6/1/2025. Do I have a motion? Councilor Nelson is seconded by Councilor Ungary. All in favor? It's unanimous. 11-0. Thank you. Item C, budget adoption. Before we start on the main motion, I would like to make some comments in regard to the budget. This town council has faced two difficult budget years. Last year coming out of the state-mandated revaluation, which led to significant higher increases in residential values compared to the commercial properties. Last year, we cut a variety of CIP programs and borrowed almost $7 million from our reserve fund. $4 million of that went into fund operations, which we then had to find this year as a starting point. Silver lining in all of this is that residents' houses are worth more than when most of them purchased them. That being said, our goal is to try to ease the pain for taxpayers while continuing to supply the services that they rely upon. Over this last year, the town staff has come to us on various occasions to adjust positions to market rates. We're not the only town that's doing this. All of the surrounding towns are in the same position. The staff have recommended reallocation of duties and elimination of vacant positions, shifting of positions among unions, and cross-training. All of this is beneficial to retain workforce, but it is to continually evaluate how we deliver services, since personnel costs are our largest expense. We have to fund our workers. This budget eliminates a proposed new position in recreation, which we can do without, a vacant position in planning, 2 part-time receptionists in the lobby of the town hall, and an upper management position in the Public Works Department where duties can be reassigned to other management positions. These are never easy decisions. We have tough decisions that we've made. We've come to a lot of bipartisan agreements here. But there are decisions that have been made as the staff continues to evaluate staffing, changing mandates and demands, and the impact of technology. It is my hope that economic development projects are in the works, including potential redevelopment of Mass Mutual, and have the potential to reverse rising burdens on residential properties. We are looking for investing into our town of Enfield. These and other projects we have in the funnel over the next several years are going to have a huge impact on the grand list growth, which will be hugely beneficial to our taxpayers. Likewise, the consolidation of the elementary schools is going to reduce operating expenses if the modernization initiative moves forward. The Town Council has taken steps to help seniors stay in their homes by expanding the eligibility of state elderly and disabled tax credit up to $60,000 and adding $400 senior volunteer tax credit opportunity. These credits will appear on your July 1st, 2024 tax bills. In terms of the education, we need to move forward with ensuring that we have the need to continue to make progress and give our staff the resources they need to address the needs and adjust in the post-pandemic world. The 3.96 increase is all fixed cost, inflation, and no new programs. And also there are 30 staff vacancies. We need to attract young families into this town, and a great education system is where it starts. We need to retain our master teachers, and we need to retain our teachers and to hire young teachers that want to get into this profession. We are making an investment into the future well-being of our town. The town manager previously distributed what other towns in Greater Enfield region are facing with their budgets. This is not an Enfield issue. This is throughout the whole state of Connecticut. Taxes and inflation are increasing everywhere. I'm going to end my comments by asking everyone to consider the large amount of services that we provide. And Enfield provides many services that are beneficial to each and every one of us every single day. This year, we cut almost $2.6 million from capital and operating, and departments offered additional ideas also. I stand by this budget and hope that all of you will stand by with me. However, I don't think we can continue to have this conversation only in the spring. As of July 1st, I'm going to ask for quarterly department spending reports so that we can take a look at overtime, that we can look at each one of the departments as a quarter so that come springtime, we know where we're going to be going with our budget. I just think that this will help us in the long run. And once again, all of us have worked collectively to do a very difficult job and a very difficult task here. This is not easy, but we have worked together in a bipartisan effort and came to a lot of agreements. So we're going to move forward with this. I'm going to send it over to the town manager, and then if anybody would like to make a comment before we hit the main motion, that would be great. Okay, thank you.
Sorry, you only have to make the main motion before I think we should make it.
Well, I think she.
Because there's no, I'm just saying, the agenda is clear, there's no discussion before the main motion, it's the main motion.
Well, I'm just going to let her just make a comment, and then we'll get to the main motion and we'll move forward. Go ahead, town manager. Go ahead.
Thank you. I just had a few overarching comments that I wanted to make to you as the elected officials. For those people who are students of government, especially in Connecticut, you know that there are about 39 different forms of government that are in play in towns next to us and across the state, ranging from strong mayor to town council manager to first selectman to representative town meeting, across the board. Many of them, however, have boards of finance that create budgets. It's a very small group of municipalities where the actual elected officials, the town council, sit and determine your spending plan. It is a tough role, and I've seen all of you work through this over the last 3 months. It's a tough job, and it has not been made any easier by inflationary issues, mandates from Hartford, and everything else. The budgets that you're dealing with today are extremely different than the budgets that your predecessors dealt with 20 years ago. They're different than what was handled 25 years ago with the onset of technology, and they're different than what happened 35 years ago. That being said, as much as history is often a great teacher, we have to pivot and think about the future and what those needs are in a changing landscape, not just in Enfield, because Enfield is not a fishbowl. We are part of a larger regional economy. We're part of a state. We're part of an intrastate, really, when you think about Massachusetts, and everything's been changing. So how we've done things before is not necessarily the path of where we need to go in the future. And I think many of you have talked about this. But very quickly, some bullet points that I just want to emphasize before you get to your deliberations is education is critical. It is the calling card for any community. And I, as your town manager, will never present a budget that actually undercuts any of that, because I think that that is the better half of what we do here in terms of providing services, and it fuels the communities, it fuels a whole bunch of things, as well as having people come into this community. You trimmed this budget over the course of 5 weeks by almost $3.5 million. That is the equivalent of a mill. The departments came forward and offered ideas. We eliminated several positions, and that's not easy to do. But in our constant reassessment of how we deliver services, which is our job isn't to come here every day and decide what to cut. Our job is to decide how to deliver the services that the community wants, needs, and deserves. Those are hard standards because sometimes the wants and the needs don't add up. And as Councilor Nelson so eloquently said, no one expected to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars out here today. But that's what we have to do because those are the services that we provide. We have been constantly looking at reorganization. IT has reorganized right now. Social services went through a reorganization through the last budget cycle. We're going to continue to evaluate that. There's also the very real need to continue to evaluate how we provide services. So the suggestion from the mayor about looking at overtime and really kind of dicing out some of these departments and some of their functions is an excellent way to start doing that. Budgeting should not be a spring activity. Budgeting is a year-round activity, and the more that you can delve into some of these pieces and the better you have of the understanding of the scope. And I invite all of you to come and walk down that spiral staircase at the Great Brook Pump Station and see exactly what I'm talking about. These are your investments. These are your assets. And you have to keep them up just like we all keep up our houses and paint our garages and make sure our lawn's in good shape. But your investments number in the millions. And it's very much a competitive process to figure out where to spend those dollars. We've also had some really substantive conversations about how to better deliver information to the public. We're going to be having ClearGov come online, which will be an online budgeting process so that Mr. Dumond and everybody else will be able, with a touch of their fingertips, find the information they're looking for. And we've also had a very constructive conversation about what we'd like to see in a format for the Board of Ed moving forward. And as we said at one of our budget workshops, there's a lot of great examples in other towns that I think the delivery of information is just presented in such a way that it's easier to follow. So we're going to follow up on that over the course of the next 9 months as well. The guardrails of senior tax relief are really important. We've expanded the eligibility and we've added a few others. People can, if they're qualified, take their veterans exemption, can take the elderly or disabled tax relief package that they already have, and also volunteer. They can add all three of those together if they qualify. So that is some real protection, and that will be funded from our fund balance. Every day, all of you, collectively, individually, send us requests, and we then pivot them out to our departments. One of the big ones is public safety. And right now, there are 68 requests for traffic control and safety control in neighborhoods where children are playing, where people are parking where they shouldn't be parking, where there's speeding issues, where there's cut through, where there's excessive truck traffic. 68 requests. One of them came through again today with, we haven't really seen much activity on our street. And I looked, and that street is number 66 because it just came in last month. It's frustrating. And we could do a lot with a lot of money in the police department with an entire traffic division. But again, that's bodies, that's equipment, that's cars. And we've already made some already really tough decisions about police cars and our vehicle replacement plan. The economic development focus is real. And we all have to get on the same page about what that means. Growing the grand list is the single most important job for all of us that are sitting up here. And balancing those needs means that we have to make sure that our supporting cast is doing it as well. That starts with our land use commissions, with our city staff, with anybody who's playing a role, including the Chamber of Commerce, other businesses encouraging their colleagues and business partners to come here. It has to be an entire vibe. And I think that that needs some work at this point. There is a publication that the state puts out. It's called the Connecticut Commission on Intergovernmental Relations Compendium. And it is a list of all of the mandates between the state government and the municipal government. Many of them are unfunded. Famous phrase, right? Unfunded mandates. This compendium, as of the last edition, has 258 pages. The way we deliver government services is extremely constrained by what we are allowed to do and what we are not allowed to do. And the majority of those regulatory issues affect education. Where we can place a kindergarten class, how far they can be from this. It's ridiculous, but it's also based on safety protocols and best practices. But when you translate that into actual dollars and cents about how we conduct business, it definitely impacts the decisions that we make. I'll just end with a Greek proverb that I think is really appropriate to the hard work that you've done and how you need to move forward. And I hope that it gives you a little bit of confidence in knowing that some of these decisions, albeit hard, are going to really be for the benefit of the community. And it's society grows great when old men and women plant trees in whose shade they will never sit. And that is, in essence, really what your job is to plan for the next generation of Enfield residents with the decisions that you're making here. Some of it fixing decisions of the past, but also focusing on the future. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. We will move on to the introduction of the main motion. Resolve that page 4, General Fund Review Summary, and page 8, Summary of Expenditure by Function of the Town Budget, as submitted by the Town Manager, and the estimates for the fiscal year commencing July 1st, 2023, and ending June 30th, 2024, including estimates of receipts and expenditures and recommendations of said Town of Enfield for the Water Pollution Control, pages 72 and then 74 to 79. Social Services Fund, pages 82 to 86 and 88 to 107. Department of Library Fund, pages 110, 112 to 121. The Insurance Fund, pages 124, 125 through 129. Information Technology Fund, pages 132 and 134 to 138. Animal Control Fund, pages 140 and 141. Emergency Medical Services, pages 146, 148 to 151. And Capital Improvement Funds, pages 154 to 161. Be accepted and approved along with the amendments specified on the attached schedule by the Town Council of the Town of Enfield. Date prepared May 12, 2023, prepared by the Finance and Town Manager.
So moved.
Second.
Councilor Mangini, and a second by Councilor Nelson. Deputy Mayor Sakala.
I would first like to make a motion that we take this main resolution and all 33 amendments and cast one vote.
Second.
It's a second by Councilor Santinella, and I'm gonna say Councilor Nelson also. So.
We got to keep
So
it
thank you.
bipartisan.
Yes, you're absolutely. Is there any discussion on the motion? Councilor Hopkins.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I do want to return to what I said earlier. There has been really a lot of bipartisan compromise as to what cuts help us get to that about $3.5 million reduction. That's great. I mean, setting the education aside, there's a lot there to be proud of. I'll paraphrase former town councilor Carl Sfraza. Our goal up here, I think, should be to do the best for the most people. And I think this reduction in the mill rate does that. I think it's plain to see. Drive your car down Enfield Street. We've got some infrastructure problems here. Really, the bones and organs of the town have had some deferred maintenance. We're in a position to make good on that, in particular with the sewer system, and I think in a good position to fund our education system in a way that is appropriate. It may not be what it deserves, what all the hardworking teachers deserve, but I'm proud of those things, and I think this is a in many ways bipartisan budget. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councilor Hopkins. Councilor Nelson.
Okay, a couple things. The Board of Education, everybody says, you know, we cut them, we cut them, we cut them. The town of Enfield has never cut the Board of Education. I don't care what side of the aisle you're on. It was the proposals that were cut. And people come here upset with us when we try to come up with solutions on how to fund the Board of Education. But what I don't see is them going to the state. Because when the state of Connecticut cut the board $8 million a couple years ago, who funded it? It was this council. Well, not this particular council, but all of us stepped up. And that's not the only year. It happens almost every single year. The state of Connecticut forces these mandates on the board, which is unacceptable, says, oh, we're going to pay for them. And then 5 years later, they're like, nah, we're not paying anymore, but you got to keep the programs. I can't believe that the teachers union is not screaming at the state of Connecticut to fund what they start or don't start it, because the citizens of Enfield are picking up the slack for that. And it's wrong. It's wrong. Some of you can sit there and shake your heads, but that's the actual truth. Funding projects in a private community that the residents we're forcing to pay for it can't use is wrong. And the cost of that is 4 to 6 police cruisers that we cut. And our residents can't use that lake. They can't fish there, they can't kayak there, they can't swim there. But you're making them pay for it. That'd be like you forcing me to pay for chemicals in my neighbor's pool and I can't use it. It's just not right. It doesn't sit right. The charter states that we're to get a detailed budget from the Board of Education. 5 pages is not detailed. When I was on the council before, the Board of Education's budget was as big as the town council's. And Chris and the superintendent, they did a phenomenal job presenting it to us. What happened to that? I don't see they had a problem because we always got it before. And again, I'm just, the words that the Republicans wanted to cut the Board of Education is so wrong and so misleading. Not once, and I'm asking, not once did you hear us say we want to reduce what their current rate is. The answer is no. We wanted to negotiate how we could fund that 1.4 in another way. Okay, so along with Councilman Hopkins, I do agree that yes, we had some great discussions. And I'm going to say myself, I felt like I was involved in the decision. Some of the decisions I think were pre-decided before we had the meetings, but most of them I don't believe was the case. Where we fell apart was the Board of Education. You guys wouldn't give it all. We tried to make proposals, and with that, at this point, I'm going to vote against the budget because there's too many people in Enfield that are having serious problems trying to fund their own households, and I have to look out for them too. But thank you, everyone, for the hard work.
Okay, now, we're going to get back to, I'm going to come back to you, but I want to get back to Deputy Mayor's motion to accept the amendments and cast one vote. Okay, so I don't want to forget that, okay? And then we can come back for a discussion.
So we vote on that.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
Accepting them all.
Yes.
Councilor Santinello.
Just to be clear, we are voting now to accept amendments 1 through 33 on the town side of the budget.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Correct.
No, we're voting to make it one vote, not to accept them.
Okay, one vote, and
Amendment is to accept, right? Amendment to accept all of them with one we then would
Without
vote on it.
With one vote, then we'll vote one vote for all of them.
I got it.
okay. All right.
Thought I was making it easy.
You are.
Okay, you are. All right.
We gotta go.
Do we have to do a roll call or a hand vote? Okay, hand vote, all in agreement? Unanimous, 11-0. Okay.
Do you want me to
Councilor
repeat
Pisner.
everything I just said?
No. Councilor Pisner.
I think this budget process was very rushed. Basically, we started talking about it on the 17th of April, which gave us no time. It was almost like this budget was predetermined. I do agree, we had some great conversations, and there was a lot of bipartisan, but our caucus did offer some really good ideas that I think could have drastically reduced the increase we're going to see. I just can't stand with a budget that we're looking at approximately $13 million increase in tax revenue. We had $12 million in ARPA, and we're taking $5 million from our fund balance. And we're doing this large of an increase. I can't stand with that. I just can't. There are too many people in this town that have contacted me. I'm out in the community with our elderly population, and I just can't. I cannot stand with it. So I cannot support this budget. I do have a question, Mayor, to the town manager regarding the Board of Ed portion of it. And I did email Ellen earlier. I went out online and I was looking around to see what Enfield's portion from the state was coming in at. And I'm looking at a $29 million, but the resolution tonight is like at a more 28. So there's like a $14 million or $1.4 million difference. Can you speak to that as far as?
So that 1.4 is accounting for the alliance funds that we've been designated as a community, but the funds have not been allocated. That website, whichever one you were looking at, accounted for our alliance status, but we are not budgeted for that. Our legislative delegation is supposedly working on it. We've not received any positive news. So what the finance director does is he is not budgeting for that, because if it comes, great, but if we budgeted for it and it didn't come, we would be in deficit as of July 1st.
So it leads me to my next question. If the Board of Ed receives that $1.4 million, will any of that come back to the Enfield taxpayer?
Not necessarily the way the alliance grant is structured, but I can't really speak to that until we see what the legislature does. That is not how it worked in other alliance districts with which I've been attached.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councilor Ludwig, and
Just
then
get my comments out now. I think I think it's interesting. I mean, it's been doing budgets for a long time. The individual came up earlier. I think it's interesting. There is such a difference between budgeting if you work in the private sector versus the public. And a lot of good comments, but I think as we sit here when we talk about the future, right now, so it's not before, it's right now, the government, when I mean the government, the federal, state, and local government collects more in tax revenue than ever in our history. So again, at all three levels of government, and yet we're still always playing catch up. So what does the future look like then? We're just going to continue to just seek tax dollars when we look down and we're collecting more than we ever have in our history, and we're still underwater? When at some point are folks willing to have a conversation, whether it's education, town, whatever, that maybe money isn't always the answer? Maybe we need to look at something different. And I don't know what that is, and I'm willing to talk about it, but at some point, what number is enough? If the most ever in our history is not enough, then what will be? Because the folks who are paying that, which is all the people who are sitting here, I pay federal taxes, I'm sure most of you do as well, and a lot of us in the private sector, I'm not comparing, but our benefits years ago went from what very good on what the public sector has. So we may have gotten salary increases, but we went from having a plan where we had coverage to basically 80% coinsurance and a deductible of $10,000. So ask yourself if you could afford that. I don't care what you're getting for an increase. So when you start comparing, budgets and this and that and affordability, understand no one is against spending money. But at some point, though, if you're thinking, and again, when you're, again, the thing about being, educators is you're supposed to think, you're supposed to challenge, in my opinion. This is the same conversation we had in the 90s. If you spend on, it's only $45 a month. It's only $75 a year. Well, guess what? That compounds itself every single year. And here we are today in 2023, having the same conversation. At some point, money can't be the answer every single time. And if you don't get it, everyone's a terrible person who didn't give it to you. Because there are tough decisions that need to be made, and everyone's important. And it's a balance. So I'm sorry if folks are going to get a leave here tonight, Matt. I mean, I'm going to be voting no. And again, someone made a comment. I'm just going by the presentation, like the 1.4. This was the presentation we got from the superintendent, and it said 2% carryover was not included in his budget. So that's where it sort of backed into where we got to 1.4. So maybe it's wrong. Maybe he sent an updated document. I apologize if I didn't see it. But this was in the presentation that was presented to us. So this is what the superintendent presented. And again, the purpose of the contingency fund for the Board of Education was let them manage their budget 2%. They have their contingency. They can spend it any way they want. I don't care how they spend it. It's up to them. They're a governing board just like we are. So I don't care how they spent it. That's their decision. But that was the point of that fund. And we weren't going to be replenishing it every time they unfortunately had to max it out for whatever reason. That's up to them. So I think that's this 1.4 thing. I think there's a couple ways how we got there. But again, I took it off the presentation I received in public. So I'm not questioning any. I may have missed the update, so that's on me. So I apologize. But again, that's what I received. And for me, again, at some point, I hope we're willing to have conversations that, man, we got to be more creative than just it's money. And if we don't get money, then because there is affordability, and everyone has their own version of affordability. And when you look at a business comes here when they can make money, okay? Yes, schools are important, of course they are, but if they can't make money, they're not coming here. And they're not coming to the state of Connecticut, by the way. And here we are again, the state income tax was supposed to be sunsetted back in the 90s. And I can tell you, one of the biggest issues for any employer is that their employees are paying 6.5% off the top. That's a big deal for any employer. So there's issues here that are beyond the town of Enfield. And again, local budgeting is the hardest thing to do. The state's insulated, the federal government's insulated, we're not. We're here with you, and that's fine. That's why we do this. But again, I just hope, whether you agree or disagree with me, that money is not the answer. And if it's the only conversation we're going to have, again, we're already being taxed to the highest level in our history. So I'm not sure where else we can go if we're already taxed at the highest level. We're already here. I don't know. I mean, higher? Is that the answer? So it's not high enough? I mean, so I'm willing to have those conversations. And I'm willing to, I'm willing to debate different projects, because every project's important, whether it's on the town side, board side, whatever. And oh, by the way, I think you guys know this, but board allocations and town allocations still taxpayer money. It's coming out of the same pocket. It may come out of a different pocket. You call it whatever you want. Still coming out of the taxpayers. And when the community votes for a referendum, I'm sorry, that's important. That's supporting education. I don't care if it comes out of our budget. It's still supporting education. Because again, I guess folks, if they're not happy with the middle school building because it came out of a referendum, it's funny how we hear some of this, well, it was a referendum. It's still for education. And again, our voters still, and again, the taxpayers do show up. Maybe they don't support everything, but they support what they feel they get the best bang for their buck. And I don't feel why that's a terrible mantra to live by. Is like, look, I just want to make sure my money's being spent wisely. I'm not afraid of it being spent. I want it spent wisely, and I want somebody able to defend why I'm spending it. Ask yourself, is that is happening? And the answer is no. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councilor Santinello.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I don't like paying taxes either. And I agree with Councilor Ludwig that the state's asking for too much, the federal government's asking too much. But this is the difference with this budget. Every penny in this budget stays right here. We don't send money to Summers or Windsor or Suffield. It takes care of your kids. It pays our police department. It pays for our infrastructure. I find it really poetic that on a day when we're looking at cutting $2 million from capital improvements, that there's a sinkhole right outside our door. We have been having a party around here without raising taxes. My favorite page in this budget, and everybody knows this, is the last page, page 69, where we enjoyed not putting money into capital improvements, not raising taxes, but we spent on a credit card and the payment is due. Look at that page, because this year, $12 million is going to pay the credit card. That's 4 mils. 4 mils to pay for the stuff that we didn't pay for until today. So if you want to talk about a problem, we got here and handed a credit card bill, and it's time to pay the piper. And it's causing problems. And at the same time, we're not investing in the things that we need to invest in. There's no free lunches. There's no free lunches. And the only solution is money. Money, and it's got to come from the people that live here, or we need to figure out how to turn on the economic engine. I've been standing on my head about people who want to push developers out of town. They don't want to see things change. We have to change. The way we've been doing things is not the way going forward. I am going to support this budget, but I want people to understand that we have so much work to do here, and the holes are glaring. Not only do we have a debt, we have a school that's in an alliance district. We have to get out of that. The problems are just significant. But this money that we are asking people to spend stays right here to solve some of these problems. And so I'm going to vote in favor of this budget, and there's no more kicking the can down the road. We have to get serious about our future and what that looks like in this town.
Okay, thank you. Councilor Finger.
Thank you, Mayor. So I've been kind of quiet tonight. I think there's a lot of people out there who know who I am, what I felt about the school system. I've worked with the school system for a lot of years, going through there and seeing what things are done and how things are done, what the kids need. And when my kids were young, yes, I collected egg cartons and brought paper and I brought pens. I did everything else I could to help my children get an education. Both of them turned out to be high honor students coming out of the high school for me. And who do I thank? My wife, for one, because she helped, but two, the teachers and the staff. But what I don't like is when we take the Board of Education money and put it in other areas. That spillway, for one. That spillway, you cannot go to it and use it. That money should be brought to you and help you fund your budget. The $500,000 minimum that was taken from the roofs and parking lot that they voted on and put it into Powder Hollow Park. That was your money. And I said, in that meeting sitting, we're Councilor Santinello sitting right now, and I said, let's put that money back into the school system. Nope. Let's play ball with it. And unfortunately, that put sour taste in my mouth about the way things are being spent. I've always honored the school system. I've always honored my seniors, my veterans in particular, and it just upsets me that how do I know if something happens again, they take more money from you? I'm not saying anybody's right and or wrong, but I out of my own heart and my own conscience, I'm sorry, I'm voting no because your money has been spent wrongly. And it's about time that we get things done right in this town. And I'm going to tell you something, spending school money on other issues and other private properties and everything like that and giving multimillionaires breaks on their taxes is wrong for this town. I got senior citizens that I know for a fact who live next door to me, it's going to be hard for them to be able to afford this. They'll do it. They'll do it, I'm sure. But single moms and dads, the way things are today, it's just too much. It's just too much. And again, I agree with Councilor Nelson and the others. We weren't cutting anybody. Just listen to what we had to say, and they refused to do that to try to help get things done. When you're put on silence, it's like you telling your own kids, go sit in the corner and be quiet. That's how I felt during this budget. With the exception of, I also cut out of my own area. on the Department of Public Works side, along with the bipartisan, a lot of money, a lot of equipment that we need, 5 positions, which I didn't know about till later, earlier today. 5 positions were cut. Nothing's being cut anywhere else. Again, people are taking the heavy hit of this, and that's part of your infrastructure. That equipment is part of your infrastructure. And it's just wrong that we have to do that. I don't blame anybody on this council up here. Things should have been better for you years ago. I will agree with that 100%. The 0 increases that the school department got years ago was wrong. And I always voiced that opinion. But I'm afraid of the way things are going, that your money could be spent other places. Thank you.
Councilor Ungary.
Thank you. Councilor Nelson explained our whole approach and opinion on the Board of Ed, so I don't want to repeat all of that. But I will say that all my years on the Board of Ed, we used to get a handout about this thick of all the expenses and everything. I used to call it the phone book version. Do they still make phone books anymore? But it was about this thick, and it broke down everything. So to just get a few pages is like, what is this? It just, I wished we had more information. And I'd like to say that this whole budget process was hasty. We received our budget books not that long ago. Usually we have them 4 to 6 weeks earlier, so we can really take the time to digest everything and go over. And that's why we're elected, is to go over these with a fine-tooth comb and make right decisions. And there's a lot of reasons why I don't agree on this budget. One is that we're funding a private entity that's being paid for by the Enfield taxpayers, but all Enfield taxpayers can't use this private entity. So to me, that's a disconnect. But we're paying for it. I think of all the people that contacted me over this budget, it was people from all walks of life, all different ages, but most of them were seniors and young married couples. They're all on such a tight budget. They can't afford this huge tax increase. They're making food and travel concessions, and I think we're all going to have to make some concessions when we see how high these taxes are going to go up. We talk about economic development. We need to have businesses come here and keep them here. You know, we used to have Hallmark, Lego, Mass Mutual. They're all gone. We were used to having all that extra money to fund our budget, and now it's just not there. So it's just like at home. If you're used to 2 people working and one person loses a job, you tighten your belt and try to see where you can make concessions. So that's what we really worked hard at trying to do. That's why I'm not going to support this budget, because I wish we had more time, that we could be more creative with our numbers, and this whole burden is going to fall on all of us, on the taxpayers.
Okay, thank you. Councilor Despard.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It is incredibly important that the public not be confused or misled by this. If you're choosing not to fund $1.4 million in costs to the schools, that is cutting the schools. There is no way you can sit there and say that is not cutting the schools and play semantics and try to twist it around. That is a cut. And so if you are not supporting this budget, you are not supporting funding our schools. That's just simple. It's simple, and please resist any outside influence that would tell you otherwise. That is a very simple calculation. I support this budget. Nobody wants a tax increase. I don't want to increase taxes. There's nobody up here that does want to increase taxes. But things come to roost, right? You kick the can so far. As Councilor Santinella had said, the interest on the debt builds. We are here now. We have to take care of this now. And I think going forward, we have to spend more on our education. That is clear. So the last thing I'm going to say it again. This is not about the use of a lake. This is about a piece of infrastructure that, if it goes, it affects 30% of the town. There would be millions of dollars of flooding damage to unrelated neighborhoods if this piece of infrastructure fails. That is why it's being supported. And that's it for me. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councilor Mangini.
I too want to thank the staff, all the workers, and my fellow colleagues here at the council. Everyone has worked extremely hard, whether we agree on cuts or increases or not. Everyone here has worked diligently and very hard and respectfully, and I appreciate that. However, having said that, I believe the Board of Education budget is underfunded. I believe that by understanding some of the salaries, some of the projects, we're not doing a service to our educators or to our children. I know for a fact that our teachers do reach into their pockets on a daily basis, either to provide for the children in the school, and there are some teachers that provide for kids out of school. So having said that, it's extremely important that we understand the severity of the lack of funding for the schools. There are contractual obligations that must be met, and by supporting the budget as it stands, we're just meeting the basic needs. As a realtor, I will tell you that people do look for schools. They do look for education, whether they have children in the schools or not. They know that the school is a viable piece of the community. It's a very important piece of the community. So I most definitely am going to support the budget, and I do want to again thank the school workers, the teachers, the paras, and the administration for all the hard work that they do on an everyday basis. Those kids are not easy to deal with from elementary through high school, and the teachers give it their 110%. So heartfelt thank you.
Okay, thank you. Deputy Mayor Scala.
Thank you. I will try to be brief, but I did write several comments down, but I will try not to repeat a lot of the other things. I'll agree with Councilor Ludwig on one item. Local budgeting is hard. We are your neighbors, your friends, your family, your coworkers. We see you at the grocery store. We see you at the schools or a local youth sporting event, and we get an earful. It is hard, but that is the burden of being an elected official, and that's why we're here. I'd like to thank the town manager and the finance director, John Wilcox, for all of your hard work. Also, the department directors for finding savings when we asked. This budget was not easy. We're coming off a budget last year where we saw housing market and housing rates soar, cost rise, and a reevaluation. So last year we attempted to balance and ease some of that by using some fund balance to fund some operation costs. This year, the town side had about $1.1 million of contractual wage increase obligations. I'm using round numbers. The Board of Education had over $2 million. So there you begin, right off the top, over $3 million of obligations we can't control, not including other mandated cost increase. So we start reducing a little here, a little there. And again, thank you to staff and thank you to everybody up here. We came up with about collectively $3.5 million in reductions. I am not willing to cut the Board of Ed. I am not willing to vote for a budget that cuts the Board of Ed. We have cut their asks in years past, or we've flat funded them. But it is not a line item cut that we should be making. We have to invest in our youth and in our schools. There was a lot of give and take in this budget. I don't think it's perfect. Nobody was silenced. But the difference between the budget that we are going to vote for and the budget that they support is $1.4 million to the Board of Education. Remember that. We don't control increases in cost in utilities, goods, values, housing values rising. I'm not going to belabor that point. But again, we collaboratively did a lot of good work up here, and I'm proud of that. And I will be supporting this budget.
Okay, thank you very much. I think pretty much everybody has stated their opinions in regard to the budget. Getting back to my original comments that I had stated earlier before the main motion, one thing that we can honestly state up here, we all work together. We worked very hard together in eliminating what I said earlier, $2.6 million from capital operating and the departments. All the department heads, after we had deliberated, I went back and said, can you eliminate from 5 to 8% more off of your budget? And they did that. The only difference that we have up here is that education and the $1.4 million. I'm not going to belabor that point. However, if we go over the last 14, they only went back 14 years, but if you even went back 16 years, all right, it was mentioned earlier that it only takes 12 years to get to your top step. Well, for 6 years, people were frozen on that step. And that's not going to happen anymore. We support education. It is long overdue. It's respect, and respect has to be given. We just can't be going to the superintendent year after year after year. Yep, we're going to give you X amount of dollars, but guess what? No increase, not going to happen. Not going to happen with me sitting up here. That 3.94 should be more of a percent, but they're happy with the 3.94% increase. Contractual obligations, we have to honor that. We're losing too many people in this profession. We respect everything that has been going on. I am happy to say that up here, well, obviously I'm supporting this, and there's many of us up here that are going to be supporting this. So, once again, we talk about public safety, we talk about education, we talk about social services, we talked about recreation. We looked at all avenues and all areas. And this is a good budget. We can't, as many of our counselors stated, kick the can down the road anymore. We have to look for investing into the town. This is what we're doing. There's a lot of good things, a lot of positive things that are happening here in town, and we've made a lot of those decisions here. And the only thing that we can't agree upon is funding an education budget, which we should be funding. So I'm not going to belabor the point anymore. We're going to go, Sheila, roll call, please.
Counselor Despard?
For.
Counselor Finger?
Against.
Counselor Hopkins?
For.
Counselor Ludwig?
Against.
Counselor Mangini?
For.
Counselor Nelson?
Against.
Counselor Pisner?
Against.
Counselor Santinella?
For.
Counselor Ungary?
Against.
Deputy Mayor Sakala?
For.
And Mayor Crisati?
For.
That's 6 in favor and 5 against.
Item B, adopt a resolution, the capital improvement plan. Resolve that the Town Council of the Town of Enfield hereby finds and determines that each capital project for the 2023-24 fiscal year indicated as a series or as a specific capital expenditure in the capital improvement annual budget shall constitute a single appropriation of funds for said series or expenditure, date prepared May 12, 2023, prepared by Finance and Town Manager.
So moved.
Councilor Mangini, and a second by Deputy Mayor Sakala. Any discussion on here? Councilor Nelson.
Yes, I have a few concerns now after hearing some comments up here tonight. During the budget meetings, we all agreed, to cut all the Board of Education's building repairs. They're gone. And a couple council members said that, we spend on the credit card, but the way we're fixing these is through another referendum hopefully that passes, to address this grammar school modernization. But if we don't have the support up here to go to referendum for this, then we shouldn't be cutting that out of the CIP program right now, because those schools need the work. We all know they need the work. So to sit here and say that, you know, you don't support debt, well, the roads project is debt, the Enfield High School is debt, JFK is debt. I don't know how else we would fund these other than over long term, like buying a house. I mean, the charter says we've got to go to referendum for anything over 800,000, but what about when it's 100 million? We can't write the check for that. We don't have a savings account for that. So we have no choice but to take on debt to move this town forward. And it's keeping the debt within reason is the issue. So I guess I would want an answer on, do we support that referendum coming in November, or we don't? I support it, but if there's not enough support here right now for it, then we really need to relook at the CIP budget, because that money needs to go back in for the schools. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Nelson. Councilor Santinella.
Yeah, I'd like to respond to that. I absolutely am going to support the referendum for the school modernization, and I hope people in Enfield come out and vote like their life depends on it, because we need to do that. But I brought a slide. Alex, do you have the first slide that I sent you? Alex?
But you have to submit this in public record.
Okay. Give me 1 second. Okay. No, I have it. If you can just indulge me for 1 second. In 2015, our total debt was $38.4 million. Okay? That,
Excuse me, could we have it quiet while Councilor Santinella is speaking? Thank you.
$38.4 million. When we took office in November, it was $103 million, and it didn't include the roads referendum, the roof referendum. And I remember the previous town manager sitting in that chair saying to the council, you want to do roads? Do roads. You want to do roofs? Do roofs. Do recreation. Spend, spend, spend. That was the mentality. We should have been raising taxes a little bit every year so we avoid this problem. But nope, we don't want to tell anybody they have to pay a little bit more, because everything's free. It's not. It's not. That's not how you run a business, and it's not how you run a community. It's hard for everybody. We all have the same problem, but they don't go away when you spend on a credit card and don't want to ask people to pay for it. It's that frickin' simple. And you know what? We're not betting against our kids. I said it the other day, and I'm saying it again. We are not going to bet against our kids. My parents, my grandparents, they would have sold the house. They would have done whatever they needed to provide me with an education. No one bet against me. We're not betting against our kids. As long as I am sitting here, we are not betting against our kids. I said it before. We've had a hell of a party. It's time to pay for the party.
Okay, thank you. I think there's many people that are sitting up here that is for this modernization moving forward, so I don't think we have to worry about that moving forward with the referendum. Councilor Despard, I don't know if your hand was up. Oh, Councilor Hopkins.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just briefly, since we're talking capital improvement, I want to again note, and I think every member of this council has received copious submissions from Shaker Pines Lake Association underscoring the need for water containment for this spillway. I don't think, you can look at the news and see water is a terrifying force in our country, in our nation, in the world. I don't think it's going to get any better. It's a great service that they provide to maintain that and have controlled release so that we don't have floods downstream. And that connects all the way to the Connecticut River. Whether that's an issue now or an issue in 10 years, I think it's prudent for the council to do this. It's part of infrastructure. It happens to be maintained and ran by a private entity. And that's a service to the town, so thank you.
Okay, thank you. Let's see, okay. Okay, Sheila, roll call.
Counselor Despard.
4.
Counselor Finger.
I'm lost. I'm sorry. There's been so much, screaming and yelling and stuff like that. And
We're still talking about the CIP one. Though.
CIP.
against, because your spillway's in there.
Counselor Hopkins.
4.
Counselor Ludwig.
Against.
Counselor Mangini.
4.
Counselor Nelson.
Against.
Counselor Pisner.
Against.
Counselor Santinella.
4.
Counselor Ungary.
Against.
Deputy Mayor Sakala.
4.
And Mayor Crisati.
4.
6 in favor, 5 against.
Item C, adopt a resolution education block grant. Resolved that the town school budget adopted by the town council in the amount of $75,929,555 included the anticipated revenue of $28,380,000 from the educational block cost sharing grant and the special education grant. Date prepared May 12, 2023, prepared by the finance and the town manager.
Second.
Councilor Mangini, and is second by Deputy Mayor Sakala. Any discussion on this motion? I think we've discussed quite a bit in regard to the education budget. Councilor Nelson.
This is what I was talking about with the state of Connecticut. The state doesn't give us anything without strings attached, and this is a big one. You know, they force us to do things, otherwise they hold this over our heads ransom. And it's time we start fighting the state and get what is rightfully ours, or tell them to stay out of our education and let our teachers do their job. I'm going to support this, but this is the blackmail the state of Connecticut holds over the Board of Education, and it's wrong.
Okay, thank you. Sheila, roll call.
Counselor Despard.
4.
Counselor Finger.
4.
Counselor Hopkins.
4.
Counselor Ludwig.
Against.
Counselor Mangini.
4.
Counselor Nelson.
Against. 4. I'm sorry. 4.
Counselor Pisner.
Against.
Counselor Santinella.
4.
Counselor Ungary.
4.
Deputy Mayor Sakala.
4.
And Mayor Crisati.
4.
That's 9 in favor and 2 against.
Item D, this is to adopt a resolution setting the tax rate. Resolve that a tax rate of 30.56 mils be set on the real estate and business personal property grand list of October 1st, 2022 for the town of Enfield, and shall be payable in 2 semi-annual installments, July 1, 2023 and January 1, 2024. And be it further resolved that a tax rate of 29.21 mils be set on the motor vehicle grand list of October 1, 2022, and shall be paid in full on July 1, 2023. And be it further resolved, however, that real estate and personal property taxes amounting to $100 or less shall be paid in full on July 1, 2023. And be it further resolved that any motor vehicle, real estate, or business personal property taxes in the amount of $5 or less shall be waived pursuant to the Connecticut State Statute 12-144C, date prepared May 12, 2023, prepared by Finance and Town Manager.
So moved.
Councilor Mangini.
Second.
And a second by Deputy Mayor Sakala. Discussion, Councilor Ludwig.
Just a quick question to the mayor and manager. Can we get, I know we asked for this, what the impact will be on the average assessed house, the mill rate increase, both with the car and we asked for it last week. I don't know if you sent it. I don't think I got it. So we can at least have an idea what the impact to the taxpayer will be for both car and tax. Thank you. And property and car tax. I mean, I think we probably should use 250 as the average assessed home instead of 200,000, since the reval kind of jacked it up.
So we were going to do 200, we were going to do 300.
Okay, yep, fine, that's fair. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Sheila, roll call.
Counselor Despard?
4.
Counselor Finger?
Against.
Counselor Hopkins?
4.
Counselor Ludwig?
Against.
Counselor Mangini?
4.
Counselor Nelson?
Against.
Counselor Pisner?
Against.
Counselor Santinella?
4.
Counselor Ungary?
Against.
Deputy Mayor Sakala?
4.
And Mayor Crisati?
4.
6 in favor, 5 against.
Any other business prior to come before the said meeting? Item 14, public communications. Is there anyone who would like to approach the council? Mr. Janitis. Three minutes.
I have to say that when I got my copy...
Excuse me, name and address.
Peter
please.
Janitis, 3 Farmstead Circle. I went to down to the central office twice to try to get a copy of the salary schedule, and I was told basically go to the town clerk. So I went to the town clerk. Unfortunately, and I have to apologize tremendously for the comments I made earlier, because I was speaking with the figures I got were with the new negotiated contract, not the present contract. So those figures I gave you are correct, but for the new negotiated contract. So please accept my apology for that. I think it's interesting when Councilman Despard said the president of Eppendorf, why he doesn't live in Enfield is because of the schools. Well, there are many, many teachers who teach in Enfield who choose not to live here. Now, there's a puzzle wrapped in an enigma. You can't spend what you don't have, or what the people of Enfield can't afford. And my last thing is, in response to my friend, Mr. Crisati, the freezing of steps is something that was negotiated. That's always negotiated. You can either take a freeze or you can increase the number of steps, which past Board of Education's tried to do. I tried to eliminate in one of my contracts that I negotiated, I tried to eliminate 3 steps right from the middle. And it was the senior, older teachers that balked and said no. At one time, Enfield had in Hartford County, it had the highest salary step on maximum. It was the highest in all of Hartford County, but it was also amongst the lowest on the beginning teacher salary. It's always been like that. And unfortunately, I still think that's backwards and upside down. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Good evening. Liz Davis, and I reside at 201 North Maple Street. A bit of my comments I wanted to say before the vote even went, but I think we all kind of already realized how it was going to go party line. Democrats care about our children's education, Republicans don't. Said facts, you know by the vote. Plain and simple, if you have not watched through the whole entire country how it's gone, because we all want to talk about D.C. or we want to talk about the state. Well, just look at what Republicans are doing. Sorry, I'm wrapping you in with them since you left the party that we voted you for. So if you
Point of order, please. That's a personal attack, and I want to end it right now.
I didn't say a name.
You pointed right at me, looked right at me, so that
or am I
you are a
looking?
point of order. Clear yourself.
Excuse me, don't point at me like
That's
you're
what you just
almighty.
did to me.
Are you trying to intimidate me? Go back in your little hole.
Excuse me. Okay, excuse me.
So as a voter, I have a right to say, when you vote for somebody and they just lie to us and go to another party, I'm sorry, I will voice my damn opinion. No one will take my voice from me. I didn't spend 25 years for that, right? When I get to watch a bunch of Republicans say lies left and right, and you guys think it's fighting. All I ever hear you guys say is, that's my freedom of speech, freedom of speech. Didn't see any of you guys defending it, though. So I will have my voice. So now, as we had a former Board of Ed member come up and want to talk about teacher salaries, let me just address this part. First, they actually had the glossary say our teachers don't live in Enfield, all of them that teach. No crap. Look at how you treat them. Would you want to live here? You're in a store being abused, you're being threatened, and that's from the Republican Party. What has happened to our educators the last 2 years in this town? How many educators did we lose because of what the Republican Party has done? How many of our teachers got threatened? How much money did we have to add to our town budget to add our security after we had all these people coming, peeking in our windows of our schools, thanks to the Republican Town Committee, once again? And then we want to say tighten our bill. Well, I believe we even had town councilors have GoFundMe accounts, but we're going to say we have to tighten our belt. We all tighten our belt. But it's amazing. Where we want to tighten is our education. Dumb them down, right? Then the Republican Party can continue their lies. That's the only way you get elected. You get elected. You don't get elected by facts. Don't ever sit up there and tell me you care about education and vote against the budget for our children's education. Our teachers are busting their butt. And here's another fact. Don't tell me teachers make six figures coming in. My wife was a teacher. She makes six figures now. That's 30 years. That's a PhD she's holding, and she's an administrator. Now she makes six figures. She never did 20 years as an educator, and that's not Enfield. She was in high-paying districts. So don't tell me we pay our teachers a lot here. No, we don't. We ask a lot from them. We do not pay them. We disrespect them. Why don't we start showing them respect? Because they damn well have earned it. Thank you for voting for our children's education. Thank you.
Mr. Hamrick.
Guys do for our children every day. Just remember who voted against that budget for our children.
If you're going to shut people down, shut them all down.
Yeah, shut them all down.
So, how's everybody? Hi, Joshua Hamry, 52 New King Street. A couple of things I wanted. We all good? Okay. A couple of things I want to comment on. First, thank you to the approval of the budget. I appreciate that, as do the educators and the students of the district. A couple of things I want to say. Being on the policy committee, I want to just comment on the fact that we have a policy and staff members that take advantage of this policy where they can elect to bring their students to the Enfield School District and pay the cost out of their own pocket to attend the school district. They take advantage of that as it suits their family needs, and they do that because they realize that the Enfield school districts are doing a good job at providing an education, and not for nothing, but it's a convenience to them to be able to have their students educated in the same school district they're working in. We have that policy. We have a finance committee that I'm also a member of, and we have had a lack of Republican representation on that finance committee until just recently. For whatever reason, I'm not here to ask why, because it doesn't matter, but the budget process for the finance committee, we've been very diligently watching the finances of the district and asking very difficult questions about where the money is being spent to make sure that we are being responsible for the money that's being spent, for the taxpayers that are giving us that responsibility. And we've been doing a very, I hope, solid job with that. It's unfortunate that there's no one to represent the district, the Republican side of the finance board, to bring you the information, again, until just recently, to bring you up to date on that. But it's also telling that at our most recent board meeting, when the 1.4 was discussed, that our Republican board members weren't aware of that because they didn't discuss it, that the information wasn't disseminated through the Republican leadership on the board to their own members. So there's a I don't know what to say. It's just it's distressing to see that there's that the adamant concern about where the budget is and where the finances go and the different layout of the budget and why it doesn't look like a phone book anymore. But it's also well documented. It was announced in November that the format would look different. Superintendent Dresnick made it clear we would have a different format that encapsulates everything in the previous budgets in a smaller, more condensed Reader's Digest version. That information may not have been disseminated. I'm concerned about that. We have a responsibility to make sure we're communicating to our caucus as yours.
Excuse
And I
me,
appreciate
yeah.
the opportunity. Thank you.
Yep, thank you. Is there anybody else that would like to come forward? Hold on, Phil. Phil, you're next.
Oh, go ahead. Let's dance.
Angela Foss, 16 Crescent Beach Drive. So I just wanted to make sure that I got this from right in this town hall here, guys, from Senator Kissel when he was here, and he told us, and it's right across here. He said there is going to be a zero decrease for the next 2 years because we're an alliance district. So they will not be taking any educational funding away. So it's $29,823,645, and it stays all the way across the way, and it's 0,000. I'm telling you, I heard it directly from him when he was here, and I have the paperwork and the exact document right here from him. If you want to make a copy of this and just give it back to me. I did give them the one page, but maybe you need the entire document. Whatever you want. But I promise you that he said that that's the law. They can't decrease our funding. I just want to make sure that that money is put into the educational budget, that full amount for the next 2 years.
Is there anybody else that would like to approach the council?
You skipped over Phil again.
Phil, you're going to be next.
No word next. Oh, go ahead.
Walter J. Cruzel, 21 Charlie Road. The party left you. They just walked out the door. The party left you. Just remember that. And the biggest liar of all is the guy on the left there. He's the biggest liar. He's been doing it since the day he became senator. So if anyone's a liar, it's right there.
Thank you, Phil. Thank you.
Well, I have to tell Phil Dumont, 13 Celtic Court. This has been a real education for me, coming from business. First off, I got some of the motions, but as a finance guy, I'm a little embarrassed that I'm lost. I don't even know what we're voting on. I saw the original budget. I don't know, maybe a proposed new original was that we could look at. When you mentioned numbers, we're doing this and that, I have no idea what the total spend is. So, but just back off that for a second. This process needs to start a lot earlier. It is a 12-month process. You need to dig in. You start peeling some onions, you're going to find out some revelations that you don't even know about. And challenge. You got to challenge. So what drives some of these things? Let's look on the public side. I have a classmate from high school who some years ago recently retired from the police force. Well, a few years ago. He asked what it was like when he joined it in Thompsonville. He was a junior police officer, joined the force. He said in the mid-'70s when he joined it, there were 55, the police force consisted of 55 people. They did also EMS. The policemen also did EMS at that point. The population in 1975 is the same as it is today. Okay, what's changed? Not the population. The layout of the town's pretty much the same as well. Societal influence, there's another discussion there, okay, about police protection. But let's look at the budget. Best I could get out of there is you're last got 107 officers, dispatchers I think were 7. You got 27 or 30 EMS. You're up to over 130 people that supported this town some years ago with the same population with half of it. So when you're dissecting the budget, you really got to ask hard questions. What's going on? It's a typical, what I mentioned before, budget to budget to the budget creep. When you're looking at costs, salaries and benefits drives everything, whether it's in the town side or the Board of Ed side. In this presentation, I was looking at the number of students was 5,200 5 years ago. I didn't know until I had a question mark on my paper. One of the councilmen, I think Mike, said it was 4,600. I didn't know that. So now you have a decrease of students of 300 people. Now, I'm not talking against teachers. Teachers do a great job. But you need to adjust. The driver is the number of students. And unfortunately, and somebody will have to correct me, but from what I understand, let's just, an example, if we drop 1,000 students in a year, the state of Connecticut prohibits us from reducing the budget to address that. That's what I understand. So somehow I'll find that out. But that doesn't make sense. You always, what's your driver, your number of your students? What do you need for resources to support those students? Suffield just increased the Board of Ed budget. However, they're cutting the teachers and the staff. They just did a study that said, you know, what's our ratios, teacher to student ratio? They found they had some as low as 7 students in a class. That's not right. I had 35 when I come to school, but I'm not asking you to go there. Okay. But the other thing is there's key metrics in education. In any department, teacher to student ratios, reading scores, math scores, graduation rates, all of that. I didn't see any of this in this budget presentation. And if I was in business, I'd send somebody back and say, no, this has to be improved. So that's my point, and I'll keep looking, but thanks for listening.
All right. Thank you, Phil. Greatly appreciated, and thank you for your patience.
I will be short. Leslie Cunningham, 26 Wheeler Drive, Shaker Pines Lake Association. I just want to thank you for making a difficult decision and supporting our request for funding. It truly is an infrastructure issue, and you have funded other infrastructure issues in town, flooding in different neighborhoods, and we truly appreciate it. We know it was difficult for you. You all do a great job. These budgets are mind-boggling, and I just want to thank you for the time that you gave it. I know it was difficult.
Okay, thank you very much. Is there anybody else that would like to come up? I'm going to ask John Wilcox to come on up and talk a little about the Alliance District. Public communications are closed.
Okay, so the way I understand the Alliance District, and I read through Connecticut General Statutes on it, it's Section 10, 262U, if anybody wants to look it up. The way I understand it is that, yes, they do calculate the ECS funding, and the state still does allocate the total amount. However, currently, they give 100% to the town. So when it calculates the $29 million, they give the $29 million to the town. When you become an Alliance District, the what they give to the town is what they gave to the town in 2012. That's the $28,380,000 that I put in the budget. Okay, the difference between the increased amount and the amount they give us, OPM is instructed to give that to the State Board of Education, who then distributes that to the Board of Ed, the Town Board of Ed, directly, and they have to submit education plans. I'm not sure exactly what all plans they need to provide to the State Board of Ed for that. But that funding goes directly to them. It doesn't come to us. So that is why you have the $28,380,000 in the budget. Now, the state we became an Alliance District last year, and the state made a special allowance for the new Alliance District member, along with, I think, 2 other towns. They made a special provision where instead of looking back to 2012, they look back to 2021 number, or 21 or 22. But it's my understanding that they are looking to revisit that and make the 3 new Alliance districts go back to the 2012 amount like every other Alliance district did. And that's why I put in the reduced amount, because I would rather have the budget and plan on having the lower number than having to take money out of the budget and have to come up with it later.
Okay, thank you, John.
Yep.
Appreciate it. Are there any final councilor communications? We're going to go Councilor Finger.
First is, I will make my apologies to the people on this dais, the people in the audience, and the people on TV land. I lost my cool because it's been a long night. I'm tired, and I don't like being pointed out as being told by our mayor that there is no personal attack. She looked right at me, and in fact, she left. So there's no chance for me to even look at her and say, I'm sorry by pointing at her. So when she watches this again, my apologies for pointing at you, but you personally attacked me, and I don't like that. Second thing is, Ask Me Local 1029, which is my union. In all the years that I've been with it, we've taken 7 zeros. So I know what it's like not to have money put into my pension. That's money lost. So I understand that. 2, I want to agree with Board of Education member Josh. It's our fault. It's nobody over there's fault. It's nobody's fault but ours. We should have contacted our Board of Education Republican members and sat down with them and had a meeting. That's a hindsight. I think it is. I'm new to this budget, and I feel bad about it. But, you learn by your mistakes. I think all of us have done that. And Amanda, you're still my favorite Board of Education member. Thank you.
Councilor Pisner.
So again, I'm going to bring up what I asked our town manager earlier. This was actually given to us by Representative Hall, who is on the appropriations. And I went on today to verify those numbers again. And I sent them to our town manager before the meeting asking why that number was different. According to Representative Hall, we are getting the 29. So again, I asked the question, should we get that $1.4 million more? Again, it's replenishing a general fund that we are now funding. So I would just like it thought about.
Okay, thank you. Councilor Santinella.
Just one clarification, and if I could just ask the town manager to clarify, because this question was asked. The total budget that was adopted tonight is $153,451,000. Is that correct? Not $156,887.
That would probably be best directed
Want to
at
put
the
that on your
finance
website
director.
tomorrow morning?
I don't know.
Okay, that's fine. We will. Thank you.
The finance director.
One final comment before we depart. I don't know if John's figuring or not, but once again, I want to thank everybody up here for their hard work over these last weeks, months, and all the time and effort that you put into everything that we've done for tonight's budget adoption. So thank you. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Councilor Ungar, and a second by Councilor Mangini. All in favor? Unanimous. Meeting is adjourned. Thank you. Have a good evening.